My wife and daughter betrayed Parti me for another man believing upgraded their life, but my vengeance was swift and brutal, leaving them begging for mercy, turned their perfect world into a Nichtmare Icain victory. I never saw it coming. 15 years of marriage, gone in the blink of an eye. She left me for a rich doctor, thinking she had traded up. But she didn't just leave. She took my daughter with her, betraying me twice over. I was supposed to roll over, let them walk away without a fight, but they underestimated me. My revenge was swift, calculated, and brutal. I made sure their perfect little world crumbled just like they shattered mine. Now they live in the ruins of their own making while I rise from the ashes. This is my story. With all my tools and belongings packed up, I drove my truck onto the highway. I kept changing the radio stations, trying to find something that matched my mood. Every station seemed to play music that reminded me of my tough past 6 months. There were songs about sadness and betrayal or about feeling wronged. Rock songs yelled out pain. Classical music was full of sorrow. Pop tunes talked about cheating, and country songs sang about how my partner left me and took my dog. Each station echoed my troubles, but didn't speak to my future. Finally, I switched to Spotify on my phone, connected it to my truck's Bluetooth, and listened to some relaxing chill-hop tracks. Just music without words that helped me enjoy the drive. Why am I on the road? Well, a little over 6 months ago, my wife of more than 15 years left me for another man, a lazy, self-centered doctor. I found out he was actually a surgeon, full of himself and quite unpleasant. To make things worse, my daughter Mackenzie sided with her mother and left me too. I learned that they had been planning for a long time for this new doctor to adopt her, pushing me aside in her life. Then to add to my troubles, both of them showed up at my door just as I was about to leave. My ex-daughter, now being adopted by that doctor, wanted me to spoil her with gifts. I admit, I wasn't very nice in my reply. I told them both they were no longer part of my life. They had no idea where I was headed or what I was up to, but they probably thought I was just off to work as a plumber, which I was trained to do. Apparently, being a plumber wasn't good enough for them. After the divorce and the difficult adoption, I was driving about 6 hours from Maitland to Bathurst to start a new job as the quality manager at Redditstories Inc. I had met the owners, William and Martha, the night my family left me with only a letter saying goodbye at the local hospital. They kept in touch during my divorce, and once it was over, they offered me the position overseeing quality for their range of plumbing products. It was a big opportunity, and that's why I was headed south, hoping to find music that wouldn't make me cry about losing my family. A couple of years ago, I bought a used Ford F truck and outfitted it for work. I replaced the tray with custom toolboxes, added a new front guard with bright lights, and installed a sturdy winch in case I got stuck while on the job. I also added lights around my work area for nighttime projects, which let me work whenever I wanted, day or night, during the few times Carol, Mackenzie, and I went camping. The things I added to my truck were really useful. I loved how my truck could go anywhere with its 4-wheel drive, even if it used a bit more fuel than most regular trucks in Australia. To me, it was worth it. As I drove for a couple of hours, I thought about the past few years. Looking back, I noticed both women started to drift away from me. It was never obvious, but the warm kisses from Carol turned into quick pecks. And with Mackenzie, our outings changed from fun dad-daughter dates to her asking what I could do for her. I cared for both of them deeply, so I didn't see this change coming. My sister Kim said my love made me overlook these signs. I never imagined I'd be let down by the ones I cared about the most. I would still be clueless if Carol hadn't started seeing another man, and he encouraged her to leave me. I really disliked that guy for breaking apart my family, but maybe if it wasn't him, it would have been someone else. Carol seemed to want something different. At one point, I stopped at a service station along the highway to fill my fuel tank. I went inside to pay and grab some drinks and snacks. While I was there, I saw a weather report on a TV. They said big storms were coming later today. Great. The weather matched how I felt inside. After filling up and checking my gear, I hopped back on the road. I hoped to reach my new 2-bedroom apartment by early evening. I had just over a week before starting my job at Redditstories Inc., so I had plenty of time to explore. Since I was near Bathurst, I wanted to see the famous racetrack. Growing up watching the races with my dad, driving around that track was a special goal for me. I also looked forward to finding some good local cafes and bars. For someone like me who works with their hands, coffee and evening drinks were important, so knowing where to go would help me meet new people. As I drove, I kept thinking about my life lately, and I began to feel sad. Even after my issues with Carol and Mackenzie, I still didn't fully understand why they treated me the way they did. They put a restraining order on me, which means I can't see either of them or that doctor during the divorce. At the same time, they wanted me to allow Mackenzie to be adopted. She would become Mackenzie Morrison and would no longer be my daughter. Kim, my older sister and lawyer, persuaded me to sign the papers. She said that since so much time and effort had gone into this, my two betraying women knew what they were doing. The sky matched my mood. Dark clouds formed as I drove, almost like the storm understood my sadness and wanted to join in. I thought that maybe the storm would pass over the Morrison home and something bad would happen to it. As the rain started, I felt even worse. I thought my windows were up, but somehow my shirt got wet. I was dealing with the pain of losing my family. With the rain pouring outside, my tears joined the rain inside the car, and I drove on, mourning my loss. Then the rain really picked up, falling like a waterfall. It came down so hard that I had to slow down, trying to see the road as lightning flashed and thunder boomed around me. I drove through the storm for nearly 2 hours. Sometimes it was light, and other times it was so heavy that I could barely see. Through it all I cried. Each sign I passed was a reminder of how far I had come, each tear holding a memory of love, and each lightning flash hurt like my heart. I saw a rest area and decided to pull over. Driving in a storm wears you out, and with all my emotions I was really tired. I filled up my gas tank and parked in a space. Soon, I fell asleep to the sound of heavy rain against my windows. About 30 minutes later, I woke up and felt much better. It seemed like most of the storm had passed. It was still raining, but lighter now, and the lightning and thunder had moved away. I took this as a good sign, turned on the radio to a local country station, started the truck, and got back on the road. I drove for about an hour when I heard a news update on the radio. Attention everyone, we apologize for interrupting our program. The Weather Service has reported that a strong storm is forming right behind the rain that just cleared the Sydney area. All residents from Newcastle to Orange should find shelter, as there may be strong winds, hail, and heavy rain. They continued to provide details for the next 10 minutes. A few smaller storm systems came together, and used the moisture from the last storm to form a much larger storm. I knew I'd be in the middle of it, and there weren't any safe places to stop between where I was on the highway and Bathurst. My truck might get hit by hail, which could break my windows. But if that happened, I could take shelter under one of the highway overpasses. Since I was in a sturdy 4x4 truck, the rain didn't really worry me. I could drive through almost anything except the worst conditions, so I kept going. The rain started again, and I focused on the road. Sheets of water hammered my truck as I drove. This time, after feeling sad for hours, I was determined, keeping my mind on the road. At one point the rain was coming down so hard that I almost missed my turn. I turned off the highway onto a road that would lead me to my new place on the edge of Bathurst near Lotus Inc. It was a good road, but unlike the highway, it didn't have street lights, and the sides weren't as wide, so I had to be careful. I had been driving for about 20 minutes on this road, and thought I still had about another hour to go when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. The rain was pouring so hard that it sounded like a band playing drums on my windshield. Still, I kept my eyes on the road and glanced sideways when I needed to. During one of those side glances, I saw the hazard lights of a vehicle ahead, but something was off. The lights weren't where they should be. Instead of being parked safely on the side of the road, they were angled strangely, almost sideways to the road. I slowed down as I got closer, and then stopped next to the vehicle that clearly needed help. It was a newer Land Rover Sport, a four-wheel drive that could go off-road if someone knew how to handle it. Sadly, it looked like it had slid off the road and into a drainage ditch. What was worse was that even with the hazard lights on, the front of the car was almost fully submerged in water that seemed to be rising. I wasn't sure if anyone was inside, so I pulled over and turned on my hazard lights and additional lights on my truck. Even though I didn't expect anyone to be speeding by in this weather, I hoped the lights would warn other drivers that I had stopped. I put on a waterproof coat and grabbed my flashlight before getting out of the truck. But as soon as I stepped outside, I knew the storm would soak me completely. I walked over to the Land Rover and saw it stuck in a drainage ditch. The car wasn't going anywhere fast because it was wedged against a large tree that had fallen during the storm. The tree's roots were still firmly placed on the other side of the ditch. With my flashlight, I could tell that the car had slid off the road about 10 meters up and had been carried down the drain by rushing water until the tree stopped it. In Australia we drive on the left side of the road, which means the driver's door is on the right. I mentioned this because the tree was pinning the passenger side door shut. With all that water pushing against it, I doubted the driver's side would open easily either. I climbed down the bank and stepped into the water, which was up to my knees. I shined my flashlight into the cloudy windows to see if anyone inside needed help. Almost immediately, I heard someone yelling for help, so I stepped further into the water. "Help!" cried a woman's voice. I knocked on the window hard and shouted, "Can you open the window?" The storm made it hard to hear, but I caught her answer. "The car won't start." She sounded scared, which was understandable. Being pushed off the road and dragged into a ditch would be frightening for anyone. It was good she hadn't completely lost her cool. The car's hazard lights were blinking, so I knew the power wasn't totally out, but she probably couldn't open the windows. I thought for a moment. Breaking the window would be hard and could cause more trouble, but I had a big truck with a winch that I could use to pull them out, hoping it would be enough to open the doors. Time was running out. The water was rising, and there was always a chance the tree could fall and wash the car away. I knocked on the window again. Just then the rain eased a bit. "I'm going to get my winch to pull you out. Don't move." "Okay," she replied. I also spotted movement from another person in the passenger seat. Oh no, there were two people. I needed to hurry. I rushed back to my truck, got inside and quickly moved it closer so the winch would line up with the back of the Land Rover. My winch was a good one with a remote. After positioning the truck, I got out and started to unwind the winch to connect it to the back of their car. It took about 10 minutes, and during that time, the rain poured down harder and let up at least 3 times. When I started hooking up the winch, the water was ankle deep at the rear of the car. Now it had risen to my knees. I also realized that while the Land Rover is a good car, its recovery points can be hard to reach when you're in a rush. I wound the chain of the winch through the recovery point, but struggled to secure the other end. I attached it where I thought it would stay, then stepped back to start pulling the car out. At first it moved slowly as the metal cable tightened between my truck and the car. But after a few minutes of careful winding, the car began to come out of the rising water little by little. I wasn't too worried about my truck getting pulled into the ditch. My F-truck is much heavier with all my tools and gear, so I kept working to pull the car out. It took about 10 minutes, but I got the car out enough so that the doors could open. As soon as I felt it was far enough out of the water, I stopped winding. Before I could even step into the now knee-deep water, the driver's side door began to open. There was still some water pushing against the door, so I had to help pull it open. But when the driver finally got out, my life changed forever. I reached out my hand to her while the rain poured down. I helped her out of the car. She had pale skin and a few freckles paired with a stunning head of red hair. She wore a dark green skirt that hugged her figure, and when she walked it was hard not to notice her. The white blouse she wore became somewhat see-through in the rain, and though she had a white bra on, it was still wet. I had to look away to respect her privacy. She blushed a bit knowing there wasn't much she could do about it in such weather, and I focused on her eyes to show my respect. Her green eyes were captivating. I could have looked into them forever, forgetting that we were in the middle of a huge storm, and moments ago she could have been swept away. Just like that, the moment passed. I helped her stand steadily, making sure she wouldn't fall into the surrounding water. Then I turned to help the passenger out of the car and had to do a double take. If the driver was beautiful, I was again amazed as I saw the person climbing over the center console to exit. She looked just like her sister, and I was sure they were related. They had to be identical twins. The same curves, hair, eyes and freckles were there with just slight differences. As she climbed over the console, I couldn't help but notice how alike they were. She was wearing a navy blue skirt and a white top. She had to lift her skirt to get out of the car. I helped this second girl out, and then the three of us walked out of the water and onto the dry shore of the ditch. Luckily the rain had stopped so we didn't have to shout. "Are you both okay?" I asked them. They nodded. "Yes, thank you," said the girl in the green skirt. "I don't know what we would have done without you," the other girl in the blue skirt added. I looked at the winch cable. It was tight. The water was still pushing against the car, but the tree was keeping it stuck. I thought I might be able to pull the car out, but it would be hard work. If the car's battery was dead, I wasn't sure what I could do. "Is there someone I can call to help you? I can't do much more for your car right now. The main thing is that you are safe. I'm Terry, by the way." The girl in the green skirt looked back at her car and frowned. The girl in the blue skirt looked at me and said, "I'm Harmony, and this is my sister Melody." "Thank you, Terry." "Yes, thank you, Terry," Melody said. "We got pushed off the road. I couldn't do anything when the water started to push us backward. When we got stuck against the tree, I tried to open my door, but the water wouldn't let me. When we fell into the ditch, the car stopped working, so we couldn't do anything. Harmony was trying to figure out how to break a window when we saw your flashlight. You don't know how much you've saved us. If it hadn't been dark and stormy, I might have blushed. I wasn't a hero, I just wanted to help." Melody continued, "As for help, we can't call anyone right now. This part of the road has a weak phone signal usually, and now it's probably gone. If it's okay, could we get a ride with you? We were on our way to our parents' house just 15 minutes down the road when this happened." "Sure, I can help with that. Is there anything?" "Harmony, no," I yelled, changing my mind mid-sentence. At that moment, everything happened at once. One important thing you learn quickly when using a winch or any towing equipment is to never stand directly in line with a cable under tension. If there's a lot of pressure on the line and it snaps, it can release a huge force in an instant, and that can seriously hurt someone. Harmony had moved behind the car to look at the cable, not realizing how dangerous it was. With the water pushing against the car, there was a lot of pressure on that cable. Add the chance of debris floating down, there was more risk to think about. That's exactly what happened. As I shouted to warn Harmony, Melody turned to her sister. Then there was a loud crash as a big piece of debris swept down with the fast-moving water and hit the front of the car. From that moment, everything felt like it was happening in slow motion as I saw the winch cable tighten with the sudden movement of the car. A huge force pulled the cable in a way it shouldn't move. I knew I had to act fast, but my recovery point was not going to hold for long. I tried to run through the mud and water the few steps needed to pull Harmony to safety from the cable that was likely to snap any second. We all heard the sharp sound of metal bending right after the impact as I pushed myself forward. I jumped the last few feet and grabbed Harmony, pulling her away from where the cable could break. Unfortunately, I didn't quite get it right. Luckily, the cable itself didn't snap back towards my truck. Instead, one of the D-shackles on the chain couldn't take the force and broke. The chain link gave way, and the whole cable shot back at a different angle, hitting the recovery point of the car and then coming straight towards Harmony and me. Just like the last time I tried to save someone in danger, I rolled as I held Harmony, trying to cover her with my body. I wrapped my arms around her waist and pressed her close to me as we dove away from the rushing cable. Time seemed to slow down. In that moment, I held Harmony tightly and looked into her beautiful green eyes. I saw fear because a stranger was suddenly holding her and taking her down. I saw confusion as my shout began to make sense, and then surprise as she looked back at me and saw pain as the cable hit my side. Fortunately, it was the big chain that struck me. And because the cable was moving slowly, it didn't injure me too badly. However, it did hit my left side hard, leaving a bruise, and then it scraped along my left arm, creating a long cut from my shoulder to my elbow. At last we landed and time started again. "I can't," I mumbled, confused and feeling sharp pain in my side. In a flash, Melody was next to me. "Terry!" she shouted. I groaned as Harmony slipped from my grip and looked at my side, her eyes wide with worry. "Is he going to be okay?" Melody asked her sister, panic in her voice. I was lost in the moment. My side felt like it was burning even though rain was pouring down on us. I could hear Harmony trying to talk to me, and somehow I knew it was her. "Terry, thank you. You saved me." She bent down and kissed my cheek. "You're going to be all right. You're going into shock, but don't worry. I'm a nurse. We'll take care of you." I struggled to concentrate. "Harmony, do you have a first aid kit in your truck?" "Where is it?" she asked. "Driver's side, front toolbox, green first aid sticker." I managed to gasp out. She nodded at Melody. "Mel, I'll get the kit. I know what I'm looking for. You stay with him. Keep him on his side and hold the wound tight." Melody nodded quickly. "I'll do my best. Please hurry back. He needs you." I felt a jolt of pain shooting through my arm, but I tried to stay still with my eyes closed. Harmony rushed to my truck, and if I could have looked, I would have seen Melody using her shirt in the rain to tear it into strips to help bind my wound. She was in her wet, sheer white bra, clearly focused on helping me, her brow furrowed with determination. A moment later I felt her kiss me softly on the lips, and it made me open my eyes. I almost missed her words, but they stuck with me. "Just so you know, I don't do this for any hero. I do it for the ones who saved my sister and me from danger." In the next few minutes, she fashioned a makeshift bandage with her torn shirt that kept my wound from worsening. Thankfully, Harmony returned, looking frustrated. I tripped, and the first aid kit opened in the mud. Seeing what Melody had done calmed her down. "Nice job, Melody." She glanced at me. I was still fading, likely from blood loss, but for a moment I felt a bit clear-headed. "Let's lift Terry up to his truck. I'll check the bandage, and we can see what we need to do next." It took a couple of minutes. On my right, Melody was supporting me, and on my left, Harmony was trying to lift me gently so my wound wouldn't get worse. It took a while, but they managed to help me into the headlights of my truck. I could stand but needed support. I was feeling very dizzy. "We need more bandages." "He's still bleeding too much," I heard Harmony say as she looked at my injury. Then she quickly followed her sister's lead. She took off her shirt and tore it into strips to use as bandages. As a nurse, she did a great job, and within a few minutes, my wound was tightly covered with pieces of both their shirts. Even though I was in a lot of pain, it wasn't bleeding as much as it had been. I just wished I could take a moment to appreciate the situation, but I was starting to lose consciousness. "How are we going to get out of here?" Harmony asked. "We don't know when someone might come along to help us. I can drive." "I'll get us out," I said confidently. "No," both girls said at the same time. "I'll drive us out." "Driving this truck can't be harder than the ones at the factory," Melody said, looking at my truck. If I hadn't felt so weak I might have objected, but it turned out I didn't need to worry. Melody, dressed in a green skirt and a simple white top, had a license to drive heavy vehicles. Who knew it took a few minutes, but the girls helped me into the driver's seat while they arranged the back seat so both Harmony and I could sit there while Melody took the wheel. She seemed comfortable in my truck. She got the broken winch working and figured out the spotlight controls, turning them off. I remember her carefully driving the truck back onto the road. I had no idea where we were headed, but she seemed to know the way. The last thing I remember before things went blurry was a soft kiss on my lips, gentle yet familiar. I opened my eyes to see wonderful green eyes looking back at me. "It's okay, Terry. We've got you, and thank you, you saved both of us. After that, everything became fuzzy, and I must have lost consciousness. After some time passed, I slowly woke up. I could hear the soft beeping sounds of hospital machines, the kind you hear after a serious event, but this didn't feel like a hospital bed. It was way too soft. I took a moment, then opened my eyes with some effort. I saw a ceiling that was at least 12 feet high with nice decorations. The curtains were drawn, but I could tell it was daytime outside, probably late morning. My left side hurt, and I could feel the injury there making me hesitant to move. I also felt the sting of a medical drip on my right side, and the pads on my chest. When I tried to shift my weight, I found it hard to move. The reason was that Melody was sprawled across my waist. Her hair spread out a bit, and her arm was resting on me in a way that showed she cared. I turned my head to the left and saw Harmony. She was softly holding my hand, and it looked like she had been resting until I moved. When I looked at her, her bright green eyes met mine, and a smile spread across her face. "Hi," she said simply. "Hi," I replied, trying to smile back. "He's awake?" Melody asked, sitting up from where she was lying on me. "Yeah." "Our hero is back," Harmony said, giving my hand a gentle squeeze. "Waking up after a serious accident wasn't so bad with two lovely sisters caring for me." Melody smiled at me just like Harmony had moments before, but soon Harmony switched to caring mode. She began checking on me, taking my pulse, looking into my eyes with a small light, and listening to my heartbeat with a stethoscope. "Wait, I thought doctors use those," I joked. She giggled and said, "Looks like our patient is not just an amazing hero, but he has a sense of humor too." It wasn't that funny, but she got my attempt at a joke. She showed me the stethoscope. "I borrowed this from a friend of mine. He'll come by later to check on you. First, I know the main things to see after what happened a few days ago." She picked up the phone next to the bed, waited a moment and said, "He's awake," and then hung up. "Days?" My eyes were filled with questions, and Harmony nodded. "You have been sleeping for almost 4 days, Terry." The girls must have seen the worry on my face. 4 days? Oh no, I need to call my new boss and let him know. I was supposed to tell him 3 days ago that I had arrived. I didn't want to start on the wrong foot with William and Martha by not telling them what was happening. "It's okay, Terry," Melody said with a bright smile. It wasn't the smile of someone worried about a friend, it was the smile of someone who knew more than I did. "We've taken care of everything. Your new employers know where you are and what happened. They've even told your sister, so don't worry." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, and I relaxed. "Are they okay?" "William and Martha have been there for me along with Kim for the past few months. I would hate to let them down." I didn't notice until I heard another voice in the room. "I don't think we could be any prouder of you, Terry. You are one of the most wonderful people we have ever met," a familiar voice said. Standing in the doorway was Martha with William right behind her. As they entered the room, Harmony moved closer, but held onto my hand tightly. Martha sat down next to her. For a moment I was surprised. The way Martha looked like the girls was amazing. Melody and Harmony were a bit rounder, but they all had the same hair color. Melody and Harmony's hair had some waves unlike Martha's straight hair, but their eyes were the same. Martha leaned over and touched my arm. William smiled warmly. "Terry, you saved our girls," William said, sounding deeply thankful. I glanced at Melody, then Harmony, over to Martha, and finally back to William. They all looked so happy, and it all made sense. "Are these your daughters?" I knew the answer but couldn't find the right words to say it. "Of course we are, silly." Melody laughed. "How many beautiful redhead twins have amazing parents who hire handsome heroes like you to help them?" She said this like it was completely normal. We all laughed and I felt a little stiff in my neck. I must have been under some pain medicine, but my arm didn't hurt as much. Harmony quickly turned to me. "It's okay, Terry. Just relax and don't try to move. After Dr. Hill sees you in a few hours, we'll help you get up and about." I nodded slightly. "So I guess I should ask what happened and where I am." "This doesn't feel like a hospital," Melody chimed in. "We're at Mom and Dad's house. You probably don't remember much since you passed out when we started driving. What happened was we got on the road, and then your phone got service, so we stopped and called Mom and Dad from your truck." She paused and looked a bit shy. "Sorry for using your phone without asking. We lost ours, and we couldn't ask you." "It's okay, Melody. You did the right thing. What happened next?" She smiled at me like I had just praised her for doing something special. But Harmony continued the story. "Melody got Dad on the phone and told him about the accident. We explained that someone had stopped to help us, but got hurt in the process. We wanted to take you to the hospital, but one of the main bridges into town was flooded. It would take hours to get there, so Dad told us to bring you here." William added, "I have to admit I was very worried when they called me. There was a lot of emotion, and they kept telling me how Terry saved them and that he was hurt. I had no idea they were talking about you until they pulled up in your truck and asked me to help you out." Melody laughed. "Dad was so surprised when we got out without our shirts on. Then he saw it was you, that you had passed out, and he changed completely." I grinned. "William, I really didn't know what was happening when that cable hit me. So I can assure you, as nice as it sounds, your girl's honor is safe. William gave me a serious dad look for a moment, and then laughed. Harmony leaned in and gave me a kiss on the cheek. A second later, she whispered in my ear, "If honor is the issue, we'll have to make it up to you later." I blushed, and I could tell that William, Martha, and even Harmony had an idea of what she meant because they all laughed. Once the laughter about my embarrassment settled down, Melody spoke again. "We managed to carry you here. Harmony took care of your wound while we waited for Dr. Hill. He lives a few houses away, so he got here quickly." I looked at William and Martha. "Dr. Hill, is he related to Marge?" "Yes. Simon is her husband. After that night we met, I convinced them to move to Bathurst, and they have been good friends ever since," William replied. Martha added, "For a while, we were worried we might have to airlift you. You had lost a lot of blood and were running a fever from when you saved our girls, but Simon stitched you up and got some blood from local sources thanks to your donor card in your wallet. We've just been waiting for you to wake up." We sat in silence for a few moments, processing everything from each person's point of view. I realized that I wasn't the only hero here. "Melody, Harmony, I know you think I saved you, but I want you to know that both of you are now my heroes too. If Harmony hadn't been there to help either of you, or if she hadn't been able to drive, I might not be here." The girls started to tear up, but they had big smiles. I could tell that William was proud of his daughters. However, even after sleeping for nearly 4 days, I started to feel tired again. Harmony noticed, "Okay everyone, I think Terry needs to rest some more. He's out of danger, so let's let him sleep for a few more hours until Simon arrives." She turned to me and said, "Terry, you need more sleep for now, and once Simon checks you out, we'll help you get cleaned up and moving again." The way she said cleaned up made it look like she was eager to assist. I looked from her smiling face to Melody, who had also changed her clothes, revealing her similar features. "Enjoy, dear," Harmony said. The girls exchanged glances, then nodded and turned away to change. I found it hard to know where to look as they both revealed their underwear. They had lovely bodies. As they leaned over, I glanced back and forth, surprised by what I saw. They were playful and charming, and when they turned back to face me, big smiles lit up their faces. "Come on, hero, let's get you showered." Melody giggled, noticing my surprised expression. I couldn't help but keep my eyes on them as they were so captivating. Harmony brought over a plastic cover for my arm and some waterproof tape to keep it dry. Then the three of us stepped into the big double shower. It was a bit tight, but all I had to do was stand there. The girls took some washcloths and washed me with soap. They didn't say much while they worked, but each time they soaked a part of me, they would lightly touch my arm. Even while being careful of my injuries, they were kind and gentle. Harmony paid special attention to a bruise on my back. After a while, they had cleaned me up completely. They stood together and leaned in to give me soft kisses, first Melody and then Harmony. "This is for you, our hero," Harmony whispered, as Melody kissed me deeply. A moment later I felt overwhelmed and let out a long sigh, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. My knees felt weak, but the girls were there to support me, helping me through an intense moment. After that, they helped me out of the shower, dried me off, and tucked me back into bed. I fell asleep almost immediately, and slept until early evening. A few hours later, I woke up feeling refreshed, but surprisingly alone. I had expected the girls to still be there. Just then, Melody walked into the room to check on me. Kneeling beside my bed, she gave me a gentle kiss on the forehead. "We knew you needed more sleep, so we've been helping Mom and Dad get ready for dinner." She bounced off the bed and moved to a chest of drawers across the room, showing off her stylish denim shorts. "Now that you're awake, I can help you get dressed, and then we can eat." "Thanks, Melody," I said, unsure how to bring up what happened earlier, or even if it was real. It felt so strange. Was that a dream I had earlier? She laughed a little as she picked out some underwear, jeans, and a shirt. Then she sat next to me on the bed, touching my cheek and looking into my eyes. I felt lost in her gaze. "No, Terry, it wasn't a dream. There's a lot we need to discuss. Harmony and I have talked a lot recently, and we both want to be with you if you want us to." She blushed slightly, her eyes searching mine. "Will you be with us?" I just stared back at her, caught in that moment. It felt like we were frozen in time, and I would have gladly stayed that way for a long time. "Yeah, Harmony. I will if you want me to," but her face filled with curiosity. "We have to take things slow. I can see there's a special connection between all three of us, and I can't just ignore what happened this afternoon. I feel like I could easily fall for both of you, but I'm still healing from my divorce, and I'm not fully ready to care for you both." She nodded, looking wise as she settled back onto the bed. Just then, Harmony walked into the room, overhearing our conversation. I took a breath and continued. "Besides, who am I to say no to two amazing women who want me? It sounds like there won't be any jealousy here." They both smiled and shook their heads. "We just need time, and we should think about your parents too," the girls giggled. Don't worry about Mom and Dad. I think Mom has already seen that we both really like you. We'll talk to them when the time is right. For now, you're right. We should take it slow and help you get better. The girls helped me get dressed with little touching. Harmony checked my bandage, and then they took me to the kitchen. I found out that I was in a guest room on the ground floor of William and Martha's big family home. William's grandfather built it almost 80 years ago. It had 8 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, a formal and casual living room, 2 kitchens, and a big garage. When I asked about the story behind it, William smiled and shared. My family comes from nobility in England. My great-grandfather was the Earl of Lancashire and had many children. My grandfather inherited a smaller title, but he was the last in the family with a noble title. So he and my grandmother decided to move to Australia and find their own success. They had some money from their inheritance, and my grandfather decided to go into manufacturing. After a few years he realized that plumbing supplies were not getting enough attention. My family found a way to fill that gap. So he bought the 500 acres, where this house is located, started Deloatte's Inc., and built a home and business that has been passed down through the family. I looked around the room with admiration. It's incredible, William. Thank you so much for welcoming me and taking care of me. Outside of Paul, Kim, and my parents, it's been a while since someone treated me this well. Don't mention it, he replied. I need to make sure my new quality manager gets back on his feet. He smiled at me as Melody added another chicken enchilada to my plate. I had already enjoyed 3 along with 2 chicken legs and some pasta salad. At the same time Harmony filled my glass with more iced tea. Martha smiled at her daughters who were taking care of me. William, I think Terry will be fine with these girls looking after him, but girls, you should let Terry have a little space. Aw, Mom, they said together. We all laughed and continued to enjoy our meal. The next week, I was pampered from morning to night. Simon came by twice more to check on me. With Harmony around, I had someone to help change my bandage and make sure I was healing well. There were a few more times when the girls helped me wash up, sometimes both of them, sometimes just one. We had fun together, but nothing went beyond what we had done at the beginning. We talked a lot, discovering what we had in common and what was different. It felt a bit odd to be getting to know 2 similar girls at the same time. I was unsure of what to do. I didn't want to overstay my welcome even with all the attention from the girls, so when I said I needed to go into town and settle into my apartment at the end of the first week, they looked like they might cry. William quickly stepped in. Terry, I hope you won't be too upset, but I called the apartment owners and canceled your lease. Martha and I would like you to stay here with us for a while. You can use the guest bedroom, and once you're feeling better, you can join me at the office so you won't have to drive until your arm is ready. He looked at me, then at his daughters. Besides, I think my girls would be upset if I let you leave. Melody walked over to William, hugged him, and then gave him a kiss on his balding head. You're the best dad. He looked at me again. Sorry if that was a bit forward, but with everything you've done for my family, this is the least I can do until you're back to normal. I was surprised they would do this for me. The house was lovely, and I couldn't have asked for better company. Even though our connection had just begun a couple of weeks ago, it felt much longer. The girls were sharp and clever, they knew how to laugh and could talk about fun things or serious matters. Like many twins, they seemed to share a special connection, understanding what the other was thinking. As I healed, I often felt sad when I thought about Carol and Mackenzie. Melody and Harmony noticed this and spent a lot of time talking to me. They asked questions and helped me sort through my feelings. I still had a lot of anger inside me, but they never backed away when I was upset. This was very different from how Carol acted. When I was upset in my old life, she would tell me to move on and leave the room. With these girls, one of them would always be by my side comforting me. Over the years we made sure never to go to bed angry with each other. At the end of the second week, Simon came over to take out my stitches. He praised Harmony for taking care of me. Melody looked a bit jealous until Harmony made sure to tell Simon that Melody had helped a lot too. I was given painkillers to take once a day and a sling for my arm for the next month. My arm felt itchy, and the scar was tender, but it would heal. Harmony told me I would likely always have a small scar, but she hugged me and said she would love it because it was a reminder of the night I saved them. My evenings were wonderful. I often fell asleep with one or both girls cuddled up next to me. We shared gentle touches and warmth, though we didn't go too far in our closeness even if I wouldn't have minded. The next Monday was my first day at work. I was living with my boss and didn't have a car, so I rode with William and, surprise, Melody. Melody was in charge of the office at Deloatte's Inc. She managed everything from admin to finances and hiring. William drove a new Ford truck similar to mine, which he bought last year. As he drove, Melody sat with me in the back, holding my hand and smiling while she talked about the people I would meet. My first week at the office felt strange. Everyone already knew me because of the story about how I rescued the girls. I first met my team, which had 3 people in the quality department. They mostly walked around the manufacturing area, following set steps to test parts, check their quality at random times, and report back their findings. My job was to watch over and change processes as new materials came in, and then tell the whole management team what happened along with quarterly reports for the board. Most of the time, things were running smoothly. After a few days of looking at reports, I walked the production floor with Sally, one of my teammates, checking out the PVC pipe connectors we made. I think if we made the joint thicker by 3 millimeters during this part of making it, I said, pointing to a diagram, we could make the joint 5 times stronger. I was holding a 90-degree connector as I spoke. I've wished for a stronger joint when laying down a lot of drain pipe in a trench. The floor manager, Doug, frowned. Yes. But making that change would be a big deal in the heating process. Could you find some time next week to go over this with me and see if we can do it? Doug looked at me for a few moments. Sally and I waited. Sure, he finally said. Can we meet tomorrow at 10? That works for me, Doug. I smiled. Sally let out a sigh of relief, saying, I'm excited. As we walked away, Sally took a deep breath. Wow, Terry, you did great. What do you mean? I asked. Doug usually doesn't like people telling him how to do his job. He's been managing the PVC area for over 10 years. Making a suggestion as a newcomer usually makes him upset. But when you asked him to sit down and figure things out, it showed him you valued his opinion. I don't really know him and he doesn't know me, so I thought working together on ways to improve our product would be good for everyone. Keep that mindset, and you'll go far in your role, Sally said. Over the next few weeks, we had many meetings with Doug about different products. Once Doug saw I was genuinely interested in what he had to say, along with my experience as a plumber, he came up with several ideas. We worked together and made small but effective changes to some processes. This improved the quality of our products without costing us much in materials. At the end of my first month, I was starting to think of William's house as my home. When I got back, Melody came over and held my good arm, leaning up to kiss my cheek. What was that for? I asked. Does a girl need a reason to show someone she cares? She smiled. No. But that felt like a thank you for something more than just being nice. Melody looked surprised for a moment. Wow, Terry. You're good. Yes, that was a thank you, and it was for work. I know you've only been working here for a little while, but I'm already hearing good things about you. Even Doug is saying how smart you are, and that's a big deal. I'm not sure, Melody. Your mom and dad took a chance on me, and I just want to do a good job. I try to use what I know to help improve our work. Melody shook her head and took my hand as we walked inside. She guided me to the couch and sat down beside me. This was the first time she seemed to ignore what I was saying. It's more than that. We've had a lot of plumbers come through here over the years. Most of them acted like they knew it all. But you really listen and bring together different ideas while being kind to everyone. Every day, I see why my parents wanted you here. She blushed a little. You're just great at what you do. I couldn't find the right word, so I just laughed and Melody cuddled up to me. Ever since I met her and Harmony, I felt a special bond with them. Even though the hurt from my past family still lingered, it was fading as both girls showed me kindness. The tricky part was that I liked both of them, and I could imagine being with either of them. They both said they wanted me and had told me a few times. With both of them around me and sharing a bed, I often thought about a deeper relationship together. We sat quietly for about 15 minutes before Melody spoke, noticing my silence. Are you okay, Terry? You seem like you're thinking about something other than your old family. I shook my head and hugged her a little tighter. No, I'm just thinking about everything that happened in the past few months. I was hurt by Carol and Mackenzie, and your mom and dad have acted like family to me since then. I have to admit I'm happier than I expected, but there are still some things on my mind. Like what? She asked. Feelings mostly. I'm not sure how to explain. So much has changed in the last year, and I didn't expect any of it. It makes me wonder what will happen next, and I'm unsure about some things. I think she got what I was saying, but I found it hard to look her in the eyes. I think I get it. It must be tough to be hurt so deeply, change your life completely, and then have to deal with all this, she said, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. And then to help two girls in need and find out they're your boss's daughters. On top of everything, both girls feel a special connection and want to be with you without being jealous. I nodded as she gently touched my cheek. Sweetie, I understand how you feel. If I were in your place, I would probably feel confused too. I looked up and met her gaze, giving a small nod. Then she stepped back from our friendly hug on the couch and glanced toward the door, waiting for someone. Just then, the front door opened and Harmony walked in, coming home from her shift at the clinic. We all paused for a moment and said, "Hello?" Harmony sat down next to me and looked at both me and Melody, sensing that something serious was going on. Melody went on, "Terry, I hope you know that we are here for you. That includes both Harmony and me. We are not going to leave you or push you away. In the short time you have known our family, you have done so much for us, sometimes without even realizing it. I know that Mom and Dad really like you," she said with a blush. "And, well, Harmony and she hesitated. I think we might be falling for you. She looked very open and honest. When I glanced at Harmony, she was also blushing, showing a similar expression. I know, girls, the closer I get to both of you, I said, holding their hands tightly, the more the bad memories of Carol and Mackenzie fade away. They both squeezed my hands in return. But I worry about what others will think if I introduce my girlfriends, yes, plural, and explain that they are identical twin sisters. Melody laughed. Well, first of all, stud, every guy you meet will be jealous of you. No doubt they will be giving you high fives for life. We all chuckled. Harmony added, Terry, I understand your concerns, but I think we can help. Why don't we invite your mom, dad, and your sister and brother-in-law to visit this weekend? It would be nice for you to see them in person instead of talking on the phone. You can introduce us as your girlfriends and see how they react. Martha laughed too, standing by the doorway where she had been listening for a while. That's a great idea, Harmony, and honestly I think your relationship is sweet. As a mother, I never expected to see both my daughters fall for the same man and not fight over it. But something about you three just makes sense to William and me. We all took a moment to think about it. Look, Terry. I know my girls care about you, and William and I think of you as the son we never had. We'll figure things out as we go, but right now, dinner is almost ready, and you all need to clean up. The two girls took me to my room to help me get ready for dinner. We helped clean each other up and shared some sweet kisses, but dinner was almost ready, so I had to hold back some feelings while wearing my jeans. After dinner, we called Mom, Dad, Kim, and Paul to invite them to visit for a long weekend in about a month. After that night, Melody, Harmony, and I became very close. Often Melody and I would finish our work, then drive into town to pick up Harmony when her shift at the local clinic or hospital ended. Luckily, most of her shifts were during the day and lined up with our schedules, so we had many meals together. I discovered that the three of us shared a lot in common. For instance, Melody loved lasagna just like I did, and Harmony liked crack and rum, which was also a favorite of mine. Melody was a big Star Wars fan, while Harmony was crazy about Marvel movies. I enjoyed listening to them talk about films and their favorite characters. I might not have been as into it as they were, but I loved good sci-fi action films. Melody enjoyed dressing up with bright shoes and fun wraps, while Harmony chose more understated styles, but liked to show off her legs. Sometimes the girls tried to trick me by swapping clothes, but it never worked out. Once, we were at our favorite Italian restaurant. The girls went to the restroom while I chatted with a staff member we knew. When the girls came back, they sat down just as he asked Harmony about her family's plans for the upcoming country fair. Yes, she answered, and then chatted for a good 5 minutes about the event. I couldn't help but smile and then started laughing. The three of them looked at me. What's so funny, Terry? Asked the one dressed like Melody. I'm sorry, George, I told our waiter, but the girls are trying to play a trick on me right now. You've been talking with Melody, not Harmony. Their faces all dropped, surprised for two very different reasons. How did you know? George asked, confused. I shrugged. It's hard to explain, but there are many reasons why the girls look different. But mostly, when I look at them, they feel different to me. Really? I shrugged again. Yeah. I can't really explain it, but I just know. Melody smiled and looked at Harmony. We'll see about that, Harmony responded with a playful grin. In the month leading up to my family's visit, the girls kept trying to trick me into thinking they were each other. Sometimes they acted like themselves, but tried to behave in new ways. Other times they switched clothes or changed rooms to confuse me. One day, Harmony came to work pretending to be Melody. I let her get close to lunchtime before I asked her to do a complicated task that only Melody would know how to do. Your dad needs this report in an hour, I told Harmony. I could see she was trying hard not to panic. She thought she had fooled me this time. Sure, sweetie. It will be ready as usual. Great. And by the way, yes, you might want to call Melody and ask her to help you with it. I walked away laughing. William saw me laughing as I left Melody's office with Harmony sitting there looking caught. He raised his eyebrows and called me over. What has my daughter done now? Nothing much, just the girls trying to trick me again. I planned my day to catch them at it. So you noticed? Yeah. From the moment Harmony got in the car pretending to be Melody, I knew. I just kept asking her for more things to do until I gave her a task that only Melody could handle. We shared a laugh for a few minutes. I had a feeling they were up to something. Usually I wouldn't allow that at work, but knowing you and the girls, I wanted to see how it played out. He paused and looked at me. You know, very few people can tell the girls apart even up close. But since you met them, you seem to know exactly who is who. He got up and walked to the cabinet in his office. He returned with a bottle of whiskey and some glasses. It was a bit before lunchtime, and it wasn't unusual for William to share a drink with a manager. However, considering our conversation, I wondered what his plan was. He poured us both a glass. I guess I should ask how you're liking it here? The question surprised me. I thought we would keep chatting about the girls and my growing friendship with his daughters. Instead, I smiled and took a sip of my whiskey. Honestly, I love it. The people are amazing, the work is interesting, and I feel like I'm making a difference for fellow plumbers out there. I can't thank Martha and you enough for this chance. You helped me when I was feeling my worst, and I hope I'm living up to what you want from me. I stopped for a moment, realizing that things weren't always as perfect as they seemed. Why do you say that, William? Have I disappointed you? He chuckled and glanced at his drink, which was mostly gone. Not at all, Terry, he said, meeting my gaze. Everyone thinks highly of you. You show care, listen well, and never shout at anyone. You know how to bring in the right team when we need to improve things, and you always share the praise. Our last quality manager, Tom, was well liked but stuck in his ways. You've brought so many fresh ideas that we might need to look for new projects before the next quarter. We're expecting it to be at least double what we thought. He paused for a moment, looking at me seriously, not in a critical way, but like he was deep in thought. Honestly, we all care about you here, and I want to make sure we meet your expectations too. It's sometimes easier to talk to you than the others because we have a close bond. I nodded. But in some ways it's also tougher. I watched him take a big sip of his drink. He was almost out now. What I really mean is ever since you helped the girls, I've noticed how close the three of you are. I know they spend a lot of their nights with you. I'd have to be blind not to see the love between you all. He let out a sigh. Terry, I'll be honest. When I look at you, I see the son I never had, but it's hard to see you all together because they feel like my kids. Now it was my turn to take a big drink, feeling the burn as it went down. I thought for a moment about how to respond. I had known William for just over a year, and I understood this topic was tough for both of us. I sighed. You're right, William. My feelings for both of them are getting stronger each day. Even the little prank they pulled today made me feel appreciated. William raised his eyebrows. You thought that was funny? You feel loved by them for trying to fool you at work? When I was growing up, my big sister Kim used to tease me like all older siblings do. It was never meant to hurt, but it pushed me to do better. She always encouraged me to look for the truth even when she was joking around. She always tried to help me, and she was there when I needed support. I feel the same way about Melody and Harmony. We've spent a lot of time talking, and yes, there have been many hugs and warm moments. He looked at me with concern, his protective side kicking in. But then his expression softened as he waited for me to go on. For the last month, the girls have been playing little tricks on me, making me think one of them was doing something while the other was not. But even today, they never denied it, and I could see the smiles in their eyes. They might have been teasing me, but they would never do it to hurt my feelings. Every night they talk to me about it, making sure they don't cross any lines or upset me. I never had that kindness from Carol or Mackenzie. I stared into my whiskey glass. I know I'm still hurt by what Carol and Mackenzie did. However, Melody and Harmony have helped me feel better. Oh, I know there's still a lot for me to deal with, feelings to sort through, and probably some tough conversations with my former family ahead. It's just, what is it, Terry? William asked gently. I think no. I know, I am falling for both of them. I let out a sigh. Revealing my feelings to their father was hard but necessary. They're both so different, yet when I'm with either of them, I feel like I need both of them to be truly happy. I glanced at William as he took a moment, swirling the last bit of whiskey in his glass deep in thought. I'm sorry, William. I probably shouldn't have told you this since they are your daughters. I know family means a lot to you, and hearing this from me must be tough. He chuckled, similar to how he did at the hospital when a doctor was being rude. It seemed he found a bit of clarity. You're right, Terry. I love my daughters more than anything. I'd do anything for them. Martha and I have noticed how the three of you get along. And while it hasn't always been easy to watch, Terry, he paused once more, they want you. Melody and Harmony don't want just one of you. They both want you in their lives. It might be unusual, but if you can make my girls happy, I won't get in the way. And yes, hearing this from you is tough as their father. But I think you might be feeling this more than anyone else. You love both of them completely. Can I give you some advice? I nodded and took another sip of the smooth whiskey. Just let things be for now. Those girls will get what they want when they focus on it. When they work together, not many forces, even their mother and I can stop them. Watching you, I believe the three of you will always be close no matter what happens. I smiled a little. William, you're pretty relaxed about this, talking to someone who likes your daughters. Terry, since the girls became teenagers, I can count on one hand how many boys they've dated. When one is interested in a guy, the other checks him out closely. I think this is the first time they're both interested in the same guy. Honestly, I like you. If you end up with my girls, that's fine by me, because I see your good character. After what you faced with Carol and Mackenzie, I know you wouldn't hurt either of my daughters. We chatted for a bit longer, and when we stood to walk to the factory floor, we heard quick footsteps running away from the other side of William's office door. Opening it, we saw two girls with red hair slipping into Melody's office. Poking our heads in, We noticed Melody and Harmony both looked a bit shy. I wondered how much they had heard. The weekend my family came to visit was a mix of feelings for me. They admired the house and joked about my growing friendship with the girls. And we shared a lot of fun stories from the past. Everyone got to hear tales from my childhood, and Kim shared funny stories about teasing me at school. We even cherished some memories of times with Mackenzie while she grew up. By the end of the weekend, I felt a little sad. It was nice to remember even if someone else's actions had spoiled the feelings. Then came the next shock in my life. My mom, Josephine, had been quiet all night, but suddenly she took charge of the conversation, and everyone went silent. "Terry, we have news for you. You might remember that a few months ago around the time of your divorce I wasn't feeling well. We had some tests done, and we just repeated them to be sure." I had a bad feeling seeing tears in my mom and dad's eyes, but my mom kept going. "I have cancer. Many things in life can upset you." I had faced a few already, but hearing my mom say she had cancer was something I wasn't ready to hear. "Mom, I know this sounds silly, but are you certain?" My dad, John, jumped in. "Yes, son, we are sure. From what we understand, it's a rare type of bone cancer. There are treatments available, and we're not sure what the future holds, but we wanted you to know." My dad, a tough plumber who had been there for me my whole life, had tears streaming down his face as he spoke. I have to say, so did everyone else. For the next hour, we all sat together. Harmony went inside to get her tablet. She asked Mom and Dad for some information so she could look up details about the cancer and its treatments. She spent a few minutes searching online, mostly skipping Dr. Google in favor of medical websites she trusted. She found good information about treatments and success rates, which she was happy to share were fairly high. After our sad talk, everyone started moving to their rooms. Since tomorrow was Saturday, we planned to go into town for some shopping after a late breakfast. Soon it was just Kim, Paul, Melody, Harmony and me left, along with the last bits of a jug of sangria that Martha had made earlier. "So how is Mom really doing, Kim?" I asked after a while. "She's heartbroken, little bro," Kim replied quietly. "I've only known a few days longer than you, and I've cried myself to sleep more than once since then." "This is Mom we're talking about." "I know," I almost shouted. "After everything that's happened this past year, I thought we might finally get a break." I felt Melody take my hand, and Harmony held my other hand. I looked at Harmony. "I know cancer is always serious, but how serious is this one?" I asked her. She thought for a moment before saying, "It's pretty rare from what I can see. If caught early enough, it's less worrying, but it can develop quickly in later stages because it may affect the bone marrow. I guess I'll need to let Carol and Mackenzie know eventually." I slumped forward, feeling heavy. That conversation was going to be difficult. Kim looked at me firmly. "Not yet, Terry. They can wait until we know more about Mom's treatment." I sensed she had more to say. "What else is going on, Kim?" She sighed, and I could tell she had been feeling a lot of weight lately. "After you moved a few months ago, it took less than a week for Mackenzie to contact Mom and Dad and ask to see them. And you didn't tell me because, well, at the time, you had just had your accident and were recovering thanks to your amazing friends here." She smiled at the girls. "We didn't think you needed to know in your condition." I swallowed and shot a hard look at Kim. She raised her hands in defense. "Terry, we weren't trying to keep anything from you. It just didn't come up once you were feeling better." "So what happened?" "Well, Mom and Dad were upset. They really disliked what Carol did to you and were disappointed in Mackenzie. But they still love her, so they agreed to see her. Stephen was the one who brought Mackenzie over. She introduced him as her new dad, and Mom was really upset." Kim gave me a sad smile. Their meeting didn't last long. Dad asked Stephen to wait outside. When Mackenzie insisted that she would not enter the house if Stephen couldn't come in, Dad asked them both to leave. Mackenzie got teary and told them it wasn't fair. She cried because she hadn't seen them on her birthday and hadn't received her birthday gifts. At that point, Mom got really angry. She told Mackenzie that she was acting selfish. Mom said she was disappointed that she had lost such a caring granddaughter and that she felt ashamed of what they did to you. Mom actually said that? I couldn't believe it. She didn't usually use strong words. "Yep." Dad laughed when he told me, but didn't look happy at all. After that, Dad asked them to leave again. They got into Stephen's fancy car, and while Mackenzie cried, he gave Mom and Dad the finger as they drove away. "That's the last they've heard from them." "He sounds awful," Melody said. "Well, he's not having an easy time at work right now," Kim explained. "She told us that he was on probation and wouldn't get bonuses for 2 years because of how he treated me. I heard he has a trust fund, but it's running low. He and Carol haven't been spending wisely these last few months." I scoffed. Well, they had been sneaking around behind my back with Mackenzie's knowledge for years, so I don't care how they are doing. I paused for a moment. "Actually, I hope things are tough for them." Kim laughed, her first real laugh in a while. She looked at my girlfriends. "Girls, can I talk to my brother alone for a few minutes?" "Sure, Kim," Harmony said, getting up to give me a hug. Then Melody did the same. Paul kissed Kim and the girls took his arms as they walked inside. We watched them go in, both smiling at Paul looking uneasy with the two girls beside him while his wife watched. "Terry, besides Mom's news, I also have a couple of other things to share with you," Kim said. I think she saw the worry in my eyes. I wasn't sure I could handle any more bad news tonight. "Relax, little brother, it's mostly good news." I waited for her to continue. "You're going to be an uncle." I nearly jumped over the table to hug her. She told me they were a little over 12 weeks along, but hadn't said anything because of my accident and recovery. I felt a bit upset, but understood why they waited. We talked for a few more minutes, and I could tell she was really happy, but also a bit scared about becoming a parent. After a while, her mood shifted as she brought up something different. "Terry, there's something else I need to tell you. Carol has filed a complaint against you for keeping the university money. She and her partner are convinced it belongs to them. They say it's all for Mackenzie's education, but who really knows?" I shrugged and looked at my sister. "I'm not surprised, Kim. The day I left and finally confronted Carol, I got the feeling she wasn't very upset by what I said. It seemed like all she cared about was the money. Everything else didn't matter to her." "So what do you think?" "I've replied to the court and mentioned the divorce details. I don't expect it to change anything, but you should know." She looked at me wondering. "I guess you haven't touched the money, right?" "I don't need to. My salary is almost double what's in that account, and William is talking about giving me a bonus if we keep doing well. Plus," I gestured around me with a smile, "I'm living here almost rent-free. I've tried to give William and Martha money for rent, but they just won't take it. They say they don't want Hero's money." Kim laughed. "Speaking of Heroes, what's really going on with you and those two?" she asked, grinning. Kim and I had always been close. When she and Paul got serious years ago, I was her go-to person. Even before my problems with Carol and Mackenzie, Kim always understood me. Honestly, I thought it would take a long time to feel something again, but when I see them, I feel a warmth I never even knew with Carol. "You mean one of them, right?" "No, Kim, both. I feel differently about each of them, but it's love for both. It's all growing at the same pace, and I can't imagine starting something with one without hurting the other. We've talked about it, and both girls want me to be with them together, not separately. In my mind, I can't separate them." Kim studied me for a moment. It had been a while since she looked at me that way. "Terry, I'm not sure I have the best advice, but I can tell you that both those girls feel the same way about you." We sat quietly for a moment. "Have you, been with them yet?" I nearly spat out my drink. "Kim," she laughed, "I'm serious. Have you been close with them yet?" "Well, kind of. Most nights they fall asleep next to me, and they've helped me take showers while I was healing," I said, feeling my cheeks warm as I thought back to that first time. "But no, I haven't been in a romantic relationship with either of them yet." "Why not?" I looked at my sister and replied, "Seriously, I'm just one guy, and there are two sisters. That's just complicated." She waved her hand, brushing off my worry. "Listen, if I'm right, both of those girls really like you. I've seen the way they look at you and how they touch you. They know you're confused, which is why they've talked to you about it. If you can date both of them and they're okay with it, who can really say no? Our world is pretty accepting these days anyway." Part of me liked the idea of being with both of the lovely sisters. Many nights, I had fallen asleep imagining what it would be like to be close to them as we all cuddled on my bed. "I don't know, Kim. It just doesn't feel like me." "Come on, little brother. I saw your face just now. You were thinking about being with both of them, weren't you?" I felt myself turn red. Kim usually had a knack for reading me. I won't say it's not something many guys dream about, but still, Terry. What's wrong? This is way more than just a little crush. I can see it on their faces and even in your eyes. It's not just about fun times. You really are starting to love both of them, aren't you? I paused and looked down at my drink. "Yes, then you need to make a move. I know you're feeling confused because of Carol and Mackenzie, but I bet they feel the same way about you. So please, Terry, do something." I glanced at Kim and took a sip from my glass. "Kim, I'm a bit scared. I don't want to lose either of them. I'm not sure they realize how much they both mean to me. We do everything together. When I'm out, it's with them. When I'm home, it's the same. I don't want to mess that up. For me, it feels like a big chance." Kim laughed lightly. "Oh, my poor brother. You're really into them, aren't you?" I smiled for the first time. "Yeah, I guess I am. I truly care about both of them." Saying it out loud to Kim felt right. "Listen, Terry. I'm going to give you some sisterly advice. You need to act because if I'm right, and I usually am, they're not going to wait around for you much longer." "What do you mean?" "Let's just say I have a feeling they'll make the first move soon, and you might not see it coming when they do." She smiled knowingly. We chatted about the girls for another 10 minutes until Paul came to get Kim and told her it was time for bed. My sister's husband wanted to make sure she slept well every night since she was pregnant. So we went inside, and my sisters, Melody and Harmony, came downstairs. They were wearing soft cotton nightgowns that were loose-fitting. I noticed they weren't wearing any bras. They hugged Kim and Paul to say goodnight before pulling me to my room and helping me into bed. Then they got in on either side of me and cuddled up close. "Good night, Terry," Harmony said softly, kissing me gently on the lips. "Good night, Terry," Melody repeated, giving me a similar light kiss. The next morning, I woke up to find Melody resting her head on my shoulder, breathing softly as if any movement might wake her. On my other side was Harmony, who was awake, looking at me with her bright green eyes. We were all under the sheets and I could feel their warm bodies next to me. She smiled and said, "Good morning, Sleepy." I smiled back and the sound woke Melody. "Terry, we have something to tell you," Harmony said. "Yes?" I replied, curious. Melody lifted her head from my chest and sighed. Then she continued, "When we went inside with Paul last night, we accidentally overheard your conversation with Kim about us." Suddenly I felt fully awake and a bit embarrassed, wanting to pull away. "Terry," Harmony said, stopping me while Melody still kept me on the bed. "We're sorry for listening in, but Kim is right. We both care about you. At first, you were the one who saved us. But as we've gotten to know you more over the past few months, our feelings have grown into something deeper than friendship. We feel like we're both connected to you in a special way. When we heard Kim talk about dating both of us, we realized we feel that way too because of how you treat us." Melody added, "After listening to your conversation with Kim and seeing your confusion, we decided to take a step forward. We've been discussing this for a while now. We're sisters and twins, and we both want to be with you, so what do you think? Do you want to be with us?" She looked at me with hopeful eyes, bright and shiny as if she had just woken up, but they sparkled with excitement. "Yes," I said, looking at both of them and feeling my worries fade away. They were smiling, and I felt both of them lean in closer to me. "But how will this work with both of you and me?" I asked, confused. Melody laughed. "He's just a guy thinking about the physical part." Harmony giggled. She moved a little closer to me. "Terry, Melody and I have talked about this. We are fine with sharing you. We have always looked out for each other, and you know being open with each other is not a problem for us. And just so you know, we never have and never will have a romantic relationship with each other. So keep that thought to yourself," I chuckled. I had thought about that but figured it was just a fantasy, much like this conversation. We do want to love you together. If we are going to date, we are open to exploring how things go, but you will be our main focus. I think we all turned a little red. Wow. Having the love of two amazing women at once? What man would ever say no to that? But girls, what will others think? Melody chuckled. Mom talked to us about it a few weeks ago. She noticed us getting closer and is cautious, but she is happy for us. You felt that with both of us just now, didn't you? Melody asked. Yes, but I don't fully understand it. There was something special with both of you, something I have never felt before, even with my ex-wife. We spent a few more minutes sharing kisses before the girls got up. Breakfast was great. Bacon, eggs, hash browns, spinach and coffee. The girls sat beside me, and while we exchanged several glances, nobody spoke about it. Kim smiled at me during breakfast and then pulled me aside outside when everyone else was getting ready. From how those two were with you this morning, I take it you took my advice and made a move. Right? Actually no, I said, and she looked at me curiously. But what I just saw, I grinned back. They were listening to our talk last night from Harmony's old bedroom. They decided to take things into their own hands when I woke up this morning, and there I was with two beautiful girls. And no, before you ask, nothing happened when we were interrupted, but we all feel there is something between us, and we'll see where it goes. She laughed. My brother who went from a bad situation to two amazing women, but Terry, yes? Please be careful. I will, Kim. The next few days with the family were wonderful. William set up a fun day for Dad, Paul and me at the Bathurst supercar track while the girls enjoyed a day at the spa. It had been years since I had so much fun. There was no stress, no need to be somewhere at a certain time, and no worries about money. It was just simple fun where everyone enjoyed themselves. When we all came back together, the girls often stayed close to me. Sometimes they were together, and other times just one would be by my side. It felt nice to know they wanted to be near me. When my family went back to Maitland, I agreed to visit for the weekend in a couple of months when my mom finished her first cancer treatment. I planned to use that time to catch up with some friends and take care of some legal matters regarding Carol and Mackenzie. The girls and I kept growing closer, and they usually spent their nights in my room. I felt a strong bond with both girls. I didn't fully understand why I loved both of them in different ways, but it felt right. Everything changed the Wednesday night before I was supposed to return to Maitland. We had just finished dinner, and William, Martha, the girls and I were sitting in the living room, each enjoying a book. The conversation was light, and the atmosphere was relaxed. Harmony was reading Pride and Prejudice, and suddenly, she laughed. I noticed her bright smile and playfully nudged her leg with my foot. She looked at me, and without thinking, I said, "I love you." The room went quiet, and I quickly realized what I had just said out loud. I felt a little nervous. I paused and glanced at Melody. She looked surprised, and I could tell she felt a little left out. What I really want to say is that I love both of you. It was time to be honest about my feelings. Melody and Harmony, ever since you came into my life, I have felt happier than I ever thought I could. I have two amazing girlfriends who love me so much, and being able to love you back is beyond what I imagined. I leaned over to Melody and said, I love you, Melody. We had never kissed in front of anyone until that moment. The girls put down their books. They both looked at me with big, hopeful eyes. William cleared his throat and said, Terry, it's all right. We've all talked, and we're old enough to know what's going on. This is new for all of us. Just take care of my girls, okay? Trust me. I don't want Martha to sell you. His joke made us all laugh and lighten the mood. We set our books aside and spent the next hour talking openly about our three-way relationship. Terry? Yes? I want you to be with Melody first. I felt warm and loved, but her words woke me up. Sorry? She smiled at me. We both turned to look at Harmony. I know we will be sharing everything soon and I've thought about it, but I want you to be with Melody first. I reached out and gently touched her cheek. Why Harmony? Because Melody hasn't been with anyone before. I looked at Melody, who nodded. Harmony continued. As you know, Melody and I haven't dated much. We've mostly kept guys away until you came along. I nodded. I had heard that from William and the girls. Well, when we were 19, I had a boyfriend named Chad. Melody frowned, and Harmony flushed. Chad and I casually dated for about 6 months while I was in nursing school. Even though Melody didn't like him, I kept seeing him. One night, we went to a party and had a few drinks. I ended up getting too close to him. A tear slipped down her cheek, and Melody reached out to comfort her sister. The next morning, I woke up in a strange room alone. I was scared and confused. When I got dressed, I searched for him. She paused, and I sensed this was difficult for her. I held her hand tightly, and Melody did too. When I found Chad, he was with someone else. I felt used and embarrassed. I ran out of that house and back home, where I spent 3 days in my room crying. Melody and Mom helped me get through it. Chad never called again, and when I saw him on campus next, he turned and walked the other way. I found out later that someone talked to him about what happened. I had to leave quickly, feeling a rush of excitement as Melody reached out. After that, we relaxed. We all get clean and change the bed sheets before settling down and falling asleep in a happy pile. I wondered why I didn't think of my time with Carol the same way. Carol and I had some fun together, but I never felt the special connection I had with Melody and Harmony. Well, maybe that's a comparison in itself. I also noticed there was no jealousy between the sisters. They said they didn't touch each other, but they still encouraged one another with me. I fell asleep feeling incredibly lucky. The next day, William and Martha smiled at us. They didn't say anything, but I could tell they knew something had changed. Given the happy looks on our faces, it was pretty clear we had taken a new step in our relationship, even if they hadn't heard anything unusual from my room. We had one more night together before I drove to Maitland. I wish I could say we had the same fun as before, but it was different this time. We shared a special moment, and I made sure both Melody and Harmony felt loved before they fell asleep. It was hard to think about being away for a few nights after our bond had deepened. The drive back to Maitland was calm. The weather was nice, no storms, and country songs played on the radio singing about young love and simple joys. I arrived at my parents' house a few hours earlier than I thought I would, and Mom and Dad were already home. Mom looked a bit fragile, and her eyes were red from crying. I hugged her tightly and we chatted while I made tea for everyone. They asked about the girls, and I blushed as I told them that we were officially dating. They congratulated me and were kind enough not to ask too many questions about my private life, although I think they had a good idea. That night I slept in the spare room, which used to be Kim's room and was now set up for guests. Dad had turned my old room into his office. I Skyped with the girls for a while before bedtime. They told me they were still sleeping in my room and liked it because it smelled like me, which made them feel like I was with them. When I woke up around 6 the next day, I put on some comfortable shorts and a t-shirt before heading downstairs. Dad was already up reading the Saturday paper. We chatted for a few minutes, and I found out that Mom was still sleeping. I sent a text to my friends. Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a great sleep. Call me when you wake up. I then suggested to Dad that I go into town to get some coffee and breakfast wraps for Mom, Dad, and me. He thought that was a good idea, so I hopped in my truck and drove to town. 15 minutes later, I walked into a well-known coffee shop called Maitland Central. I ordered my food and sat down to wait. I hadn't heard from Melody and Harmony yet, so I sent them another message saying I would call them in a few hours after I got breakfast for the family. A few moments later, my phone pinged. They sent me a picture of them both in bed with the covers up. The message said, "Okay, we love you." I laughed at the picture when suddenly I heard a voice I hoped I wouldn't hear again. What's so funny? Standing in the doorway was Mackenzie. She had her hands on her hips and a frown on her face, just like her mother the last time we spoke. Even though it was still early in the morning, she wore fancy clothes, rings on her fingers, and a big gold necklace. Her hair was up with an expensive clip, and she seemed to have put on quite a bit of makeup for a 15-year-old. I noticed her mother and her new stepdad, Dr. Stephen Morrison, approaching behind her. They hadn't spotted me yet, but I knew it wouldn't be long. Suddenly, my smile disappeared. Oh no. For a moment I sat there looking at the girl I once knew. She had changed a lot in the months since I last saw her. Some of it was probably just her growing up, but most of it was due to her mother and her new stepdad's influence. In another year, she would be unrecognizable compared to the happy girl I once knew. Before her mother and stepdad could reach us, Mackenzie looked at me. The sneer on her face reminded me too much of her stepdad. I said, "What's so funny?" she repeated. "Mackenzie, be polite," her mother started to say as she walked in the door, but then she saw me, and her expression changed. Dr. Morrison also noticed me. But before he could speak, Mackenzie went ahead and showed me that we no longer had a connection. "Don't worry, Mom. Anything I say to him," she pointed at me, "won't be rude." I thought to myself, since this guy is laughing, I want to know what's so funny. I was shocked by the words she used. The rude guy glanced at me, then laughed again, noticing Mackenzie's comments and the look on my face. He was struggling to hide his joy. A few morning customers in the store watched the young girl show disrespect and shook their heads, but I was surprised to see that Carol looked embarrassed. I shook my head to collect my thoughts. I sighed and glanced at the three of them, finally looking at Mackenzie. "What I'm laughing at is not something you need to stress about, Mackenzie." Even with my simple response, both the rude guy and Mackenzie were ready to attack again. The rude guy seemed tense, rolling his shoulders as if preparing for a fight. Sensing things could get worse, I switched to a video app on my phone, pressed record, and tucked my phone into my t-shirt pocket. The top was sticking out with the camera facing what I was watching. I felt a bit foolish, but I wanted to capture this moment just in case. "What did you say, jerk?" Mackenzie repeated the insult. She wore a smug smile, acting like a school boo picking on someone weaker. I looked at her like she was a kid off the street, being rude but clearly looking for trouble. "Mackenzie, when did you learn to be so disrespectful in a public place?" I shook my head and stood up in front of her. "I don't get it. How can you be so rude that everyone around us dislikes what you're doing?" I pointed to the other customers in the cafe. Then, as I looked right at her, her confidence seemed to fade as she realized what I was saying. She glanced around, noticing people staring at her, some nodding in agreement with me. I stood tall, put my hands on my hips, and used my stern dad voice. "I asked you, young lady, when did it seem acceptable to treat people poorly in public, no matter who they are or how you feel about them? I raised you better than this." She looked unsure of herself now, but then the rude guy jumped in. He puffed himself up, acting like he was better than everyone. "Mackenzie can call you a jerk because she's my daughter, not yours," he sneered. "And it's not disrespectful to call a loser like you whatever she wants, no matter where we are. Besides, loser," he laughed at his own comment. "I heard your wife and daughter left you for me because I'm a better man," he said, sticking out his chest proudly and tapping it. "So why are you back in my town after you ran away?" He walked around the cafe strutting like he was in charge. I started to feel a strong anger that I was trying hard to control. I was strong and well built from years of working in construction. Even in my new job as a quality manager at Delatees Inc., I helped the staff with heavy lifting. Because of this, I still looked fit and strong. The other guy, meanwhile, was short and round. He was a surgeon at Maitland Hospital and for some reason thought he was better than me. Maybe it was because he had an affair with Carol, my ex-wife, for almost 2 years. He had convinced her to leave me. He and Carol even managed to persuade Mackenzie to turn against me and let him adopt her. He took away everything I cared about, making him feel superior. Or perhaps he thought he was better because he was a doctor and I was just a plumber. But in a fair fight, I knew I could take him down in no time. He was just too arrogant to see that. Several customers were getting tired of the drama and were leaving. Honestly, I would have walked out too if I were them. The cafe staff didn't know what to do. Carol looked a bit embarrassed but stood next to the guy. Mackenzie seemed more excited by her adoptive father's insults aimed at me. I sighed again the third time in just a few minutes and decided to try a calmer approach. "It's not really your business, but I came to see my parents." The doctor laughed and said, "Oh yes. The awful grandparents who rejected my lovely daughter when I brought her to see them." He looked very proud of himself, wearing a big grin. I felt my face heat up with anger. I could have punched him for that remark, but just then, the waitress called my name, nervous about the argument getting worse. That brief moment helped me step back from hitting him. "Take a deep breath," I reminded myself as I tried to ignore the frustrating trio. I walked over to the counter, picked up my food and coffee, and mouthed sorry to the anxious waitress. She smiled back, grateful. "Okay, I'm leaving now." I tried to make it seem like I was speaking to everyone, but I mostly wanted the audio recording in my pocket to capture it. I walked past everyone, including my 3 troublemakers, and stepped outside into the cool Saturday morning air. I hoped the confrontation was over. I could leave and think of this as just an awkward meeting, but no. Dr. Ego had to keep going. Just as I got a few steps away from the cafe, he called out after me. "Hey, where do you think you're going, jerk?" he shouted. "I'm not finished with you yet, and you can't leave until I say so." He was nearly shuffling as he tried to catch up. "Now that your little helpers aren't here to protect you, you're in my territory, and you'll do what I say." He was talking about William and Martha, who had caused him a lot of trouble since our first meeting. I turned to him, tilting my head to the side. He seemed out of touch. He had Carol by the hand, and Mackenzie was right behind them. Mackenzie was standing with her arms crossed, looking stubborn and defiant. Though I didn't want to, I tried to calm things down, at least for the video. I forced myself to say words that felt hard to speak. "Listen, Stephen, I don't want any problems. If you want to hear it, fine, you've won. My wife and daughter," I glanced at them and then back at him. "They turned against me and chose you. I lost. And right now, I just want to be away from all of you." I looked at Mackenzie and felt a deep sadness in my heart for what I had lost. "In less than a year, you've somehow taken one of my greatest proud moments and changed her into someone selfish and scheming. By the time she grows up, she'll wonder why she had so many boyfriends who never stayed more than a month." Mackenzie's arms dropped, and she turned a bit pale, just like her mother inside the store. "She'll question why her friends only show up when they want something and why they ignore her when she wants to talk." Dr. Morrison laughed. "You're a foolish boy," he replied. "My daughter will have her choice of boys, and she can date whoever she likes for as long as she wants. When it comes to friends, because she is mine and not the daughter of a no-name plumber, she has way more friends now than when she was with you. She is not selfish. She is confident." He leaned closer to me and whispered, "That's all because of me." I shook my head. He had no clue about being a father. He thought that being a dad was about looking good or being present. I doubted he ever thought about actually helping her. What worried me more was that he might take out his frustrations on Carol or Mackenzie when things didn't go his way someday. Sadly, his words had given Mackenzie and Carol some courage. When he mentioned privilege, Carol dropped her earlier shame about her daughter's behavior. She looked me up and down from my casual shorts and t-shirt to my flip-flops and my truck, shaking her head. "You talk about behavior, but maybe you should focus on how you present yourself. Look at you, Terry. It hasn't even been a year since our divorce, and you're wearing clothes that look like you just pulled them from the trash. You're still driving that old truck," she laughed. "I bet you don't even have a job and had to move back in with your parents because you wasted all your divorce money." I shook my head sadly. They had no idea how wrong they were. Dr. Morrison jumped in, thinking Carol was right about me. "So you're such a loser that you've spent all your money," he said cheerfully. "I hope that doesn't include my daughter's college fund." He pretended to care, shaking his head as if he felt sorry for me. "Your parents must be so embarrassed to have you as their son. No wonder my girls left you for me." I replied with a growl. "My parents have nothing to do with this. That money isn't hers or yours. What I do with it is my business." I spoke firmly, but they didn't notice my anger rising. "You think it's not?" "You little brat," he shouted at me, clearly angry. It was funny he called me little when he had to look up to see me. "You should have just given it to us when you were supposed to and gotten lost." He pretended to sniff me, thinking he was funny. "I bet you smell just like where you live," he said in a fake noble voice, spreading his hands out as if he was a hero. "I saved these poor girls from the mess you made of their lives. I gave them purpose." He dropped his hands and glared at me, trying to scare me. "And that money is not yours. It's my daughter's. You were supposed to give it to us," he sneered. Then he grinned. "But don't worry, the court will make sure it's mine." He was talking about his recent effort to sue me for money I had saved for Mackenzie's college. The court had decided that since Mackenzie wanted to be adopted by him and I had always been the one putting money in the account, they couldn't claim it. My hand tightened around the bag of breakfast wraps, and I steadied the coffee tray I was holding. I was getting angrier by the second. This pathetic excuse for a man was just a big bougie, and I knew he was trying to get a rise out of me. He had definitely gained weight since I last saw him at the hospital almost a year ago. I counted to 10, breathing deeply and staring at him. Carol, for the second time that morning, went pale. She had seen me angry a few times and knew that while I had only gotten into a couple of fights in my life, I could hold my own if needed. She could see this ending poorly, so she placed her hand on her new husband's thick arm. "Stephen dear, let's leave this man alone. He's already upset about losing Mackenzie and me." She hoped her words would calm him down, but instead they seemed to make him even more fired up. He laughed loudly. "Yeah, he lost, I won. But listen, if I ever need to clean up a big mess, I'll call you. But unless you give me that money, don't you dare come near my hospital, or I'll make sure you get the wrong treatment and never leave." I was taken aback. He just made a serious threat against me. "Did you just threaten me, Dr. Morrison?" I wanted to hit him so badly, but I needed to stay calm for the recording. Then Mackenzie jumped in, adding fuel to the fire, which wasn't wise. My father doesn't make empty threats. If he says don't come to his hospital, he means it, she snapped. She's right, the rude man said, nodding like he was wise. I think he didn't realize how serious this was. Even without the recording, just being accused of threatening someone in a hospital would ruin his reputation. But he kept talking, digging a deeper hole for himself. It's true, buddy. No one will know if I give you the wrong medicine. Without your rich friends backing you up, no one will question me. He stepped closer, raising his fist. You had the nerve with your sister to threaten me on my ground, my hospital. You made me lose 2 years on probation, and I'm the one who has to work non-stop. So you owe me. And I'm going to make you pay for it. This is not just a threat. It's a promise. He threw his arms wide. You're in big trouble because I'm in charge here. You're just a plumber that no one cares about. If they did, my girls wouldn't be with me. He then turned to leave but quickly spun back, swinging his arm and knocking my coffee tray down, spilling hot coffee all over me. He grinned and walked away, saying, "Come on, girls. Let's leave the plumber where he belongs." Mackenzie walked away with him, but Carol came over as I bent down to clean up the spilled cups. They were mostly empty, but I couldn't just leave the mess. She put her hands on her hips and looked at me. Her gaze felt like it could burn a hole through me. "You just couldn't let it go, could you, Terry?" she said, sounding frustrated. I stood back up, soaked in coffee, and faced my ex-wife. "Leave what alone, Carol?" "Us, him." She waved her arms around. "You just had to pick a fight with Stephen, didn't you? Just understand this. Mackenzie and I are his now, not yours." I stood up straight, moving my phone from my not-so-great shirt pocket to my shorts pocket. I sighed, something I had done a lot this morning. "Carol, I don't know if you saw the same conversation I did. I tried to walk away several times. I've never said anything mean to you, Mackenzie, or your husband." I looked at her and noted for my phone, and at no point did I threaten him or raise my fists like he did to me. My phone was still recording in my shorts pocket. I hoped it was still capturing this part of our chat. She shook her head. "It doesn't matter. I chose him over you, so just your being here makes him think I might leave him for you." I let out a laugh. My being there bothered him? You choose a self-centered guy over me? I gave her a surprised smile and shook my head. "Tell him he doesn't need to worry. I would never take back someone like you." She stepped back at my words. "You really think I'd come back to you? No way. Someone who would throw me away like trash after all those years. You think I could welcome back someone who disrespected me like that?" I shook my head, telling her to go away. "You disgust me, Carol." She stood there unsure of what to think. Maybe she believed I could forgive her mistakes. I was pretty certain I wouldn't. Perhaps one day I wouldn't feel as angry about it, but forgiveness seemed far away. "If you thought I came back for you, you're mistaken. I only came back because of my mom." I had started speaking without thinking, then stopped, almost revealing my mom's illness. I looked at Carol. She noticed. She looked at me with a confused expression, softer than before. "Because of your mom's what, Terry?" "Despite everything, I do care," she attempted to say. "When everything I've seen shows the opposite," I shot her a questioning look. I shrugged. "No. It doesn't matter anymore, Carol. You made your choices and now you and your daughter have to live with them. But I warn you. Today your husband went too far. You didn't say anything when those other two made cruel comments and threatened me, and you even joined in when money was involved. Remember when I said if you push me too far, you won't like what happens?" Carol nodded. I noticed her eyes widen slightly as she remembered our last conversation. "You pushed." Carol turned red, and without saying anything else I walked over to my truck. I grabbed a towel from the back to clean myself up. Just as I opened the truck door, Dr. Morrison called out for Carol, and she quickly ran over to him. By the time I finished wiping myself down, they were already gone. When I returned to the Maitland Central Cafe, the staff were very apologetic. They gave me a new coffee for free even though I offered to pay for it. They mentioned that the Morrisons had been coming there for a few months. At first, they seemed friendly, but recently, they had become rude and made some customers uncomfortable. I thanked the staff for the free coffees and their kindness before heading back to my parents' house. It took me another 45 minutes to get the second batch of coffees and make it home. When I arrived, my mom was awake. Kim and Paul were also there. Kim was starting to show a little baby bump, but her excitement hadn't changed. "What happened to you, Terry?" Kim asked, noticing my clothes were covered in coffee. "I ran into the unholy trio, Carol, Mackenzie, and that jerk," I replied, using a nickname I often used. "Oh, they did this to you?" Mom asked, looking at me and the mess on my clothes. "Yeah, the jerk spilled coffee, but Mackenzie really went after me. She's nothing like the little girl I used to know." I frowned. I thought I had moved on, but I could feel fresh tears as I remembered her sneer and the disrespect she showed me. I wished I could hold her and go back to the way things used to be, even though I knew that wouldn't happen. Mom came over and gave me a warm hug. Then, as if by magic, she pulled out a tissue from somewhere. I took a moment to thank her. After that, I handed Mom her half-strength latte, Dad his long black coffee, and each of them a lukewarm breakfast wrap. I took a sip of my new coffee and sat down on one of the kitchen chairs, careful not to make a mess with my dirty clothes. "It's all right, son. One day Mackenzie will realize what she has lost," Dad said, trying to comfort me. "Will she, Dad?" I replied. "The way she spoke to me today makes me think otherwise." "She will, son. She will," he said, nodding. Just then my phone rang. It was still covered in coffee, so I answered it on speaker. "Hey there, strong man. We miss you. We need you back here to keep us cozy at night. But enough about that. How's your morning going?" "You didn't call us back," Harmony said cheerfully. I felt my cheeks heat up as everyone at the table noticed me, and then started to laugh. "Hey girls, it's Kim here. Your brother is turning bright red, but it's great to see he can still handle things." Everyone, including me, burst into laughter. I finally found my voice. "Sorry everyone, it's a bit of a long and not very nice story. Can I call you back in 5 minutes? I need to clean my phone because I spilled coffee on it." "Sure, love," Melody replied, giggling at how awkward I sounded. "Call us back soon." Then they hung up. Everyone turned to look at me. "So," Paul said, giving me a curious glance. "You and Melody and Harmony, that's not just in our heads, right?" "Nope, I'm dating both of them." I smiled at Paul. Kim chuckled. "And you're taking it to the next level, aren't you, Terry?" I smiled at Paul and Kim and then glanced nervously at Mom and Dad. They were looking at me with a mix of surprise and curiosity. They knew the girls had been in my room before, but they might not have expected anything more than that. To my surprise, Mom cleared her throat and came to my defense. "Kim, ease up on him. I believe what we saw. If he is in a relationship with those two nice girls," she stressed the word nice, "my son would treat them well." "I really care about them," I said, shrugging. "There's something special with both of them that I never felt with Carol. It's hard to explain. It just feels right. It started with gratitude after I helped them, but now I just want to be with them more and more. Who knows what could happen in a few years? I really hope it keeps getting better." "So," Paul said again, still smiling. "Oh, come on, Paul. He's in a relationship with them both, right?" "Yes, with both of them," I answered, and he kept that playful grin on his face, eager to know more. I chuckled. "Yes. Being with two beautiful red-headed twins who care about me as much as I care about them is amazing." He laughed at my straightforward response. Kim playfully slapped Paul on the back of the head, and I took the chance to clean my phone and call the girls back. Just as I stood up, Paul held out his fist for a bump. I bumped it with a grin. "You're the man," he said as I turned to grab a cloth to wipe my phone. The call with the girls went well. I sat on my parents' back deck for half an hour sipping my coffee and sharing everything that had happened. They had a lot of questions about my earlier conflict with some people who weren't nice to me. They could hardly believe that people could be so rude, especially a child I had raised. "You know, Terry, if our kids ever talk to someone like that, I'll go old school and wash their mouth out with soap," Melody said as I finished my story. Harmony and I laughed. I could hear the girls moving around in the bathroom. Harmony was getting ready for her shift this afternoon. "Hang on, our kids?" I asked. Everything went quiet. Then I heard them both giggle. "Yep, baby. Someday you're going to give both of us kids. We'll be your baby mamas. No more Mackenzie ruining your life. We won't let that happen." I was surprised they wanted kids with me. "You both want to have kids with me?" Something changed, and their laughter stopped. Harmony spoke up. "Of course, our love," she said, using the special name they called me. "You're important to us, and we want to have children to love together." She paused, "But not right now, and only when we all agree." There was a hint of worry in her voice. "Terry, are you okay? You don't mind having kids with us, do you?" I thought for a moment. "No, girls. I don't mind. I'm sorry if I scared you. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about kids right now. I'm 34, and after my 15-year-old daughter treated me badly today, I guess I'm not ready." "It's okay, baby," Melody said softly. "We understand. We shouldn't have talked about this after a bad moment with Mackenzie. I wish I could have been there. I would have stood up for you." I laughed, picturing Melody confronting my former family. "Thanks, baby. Well, I do have a video of most of it." Suddenly I remembered. "Wait, I've got a video of it," I said excitedly. "What do you mean, Terry?" Harmony asked. "Dr. Morrison threatened me, so I thought there might be trouble. I started recording on my phone to catch any conflict. I'm not sure if it will help in court, but go talk to Kim and let us know," Melody urged. "And call us back." "I need to leave for work in about an hour," Harmony added. "Okay, my loves, I will. I love you both." "Love you too," they said together, and we hung up. I walked back inside feeling excited. "I have it on tape," I announced. "Ew. I don't want to see anything personal," Kim joked. Then she quickly followed with, "And Paul, if you ever want to have another child with me, don't say what you were going to say." Paul and I exchanged grins. I then looked back at Kim. "No, not that. Well, not this time." I winked at Paul, who laughed. No. I have a recording of my meeting with Dr. Morrison earlier. What? How? Kim asked. Mom, Dad, and Paul looked at me with curious expressions. When I realized trouble was coming, I started recording on my phone and tucked it in my pocket. I might have caught the whole argument on video, even the part where Dr. Morrison threatened me. With that, we gathered around my phone to watch the video. It jumped around a lot, but you could still see who was involved. The sound was a bit scratchy at times when my phone rubbed against my pocket, but we could understand most of the talk, except for the end part with Carol, which was a little hard to hear. But you could still get the gist if you listened closely. Wow, Kim exclaimed when we finished watching. Just wow. She leaned back deep in thought. Is Carol's new husband in as much trouble as I think he is? Dad asked. Kim grinned widely. Oh yes, he's in big trouble, and since it happened in a public place it's okay to film him. She thought for a moment. There could be some issues since Mackenzie is a minor, but I'll check on that. With a spark of excitement in her eyes, she continued. The threat he made about you going to the hospital alone could get his medical license taken away if it gets out. But saying he would make sure you never left the hospital, that might land him in jail. What about Mackenzie? I asked, worry creeping into my voice. I wanted her out of my life for what she did, but I didn't want her to end up in trouble. I'm not sure, Terry. Mackenzie could face serious consequences. She's still a minor, but her words about turning a threat into a promise are pretty serious. I nodded, feeling heavy. I need to think this through. I know things are bad after what happened, but she was my daughter once, and she was your niece too. I understand. But remember what you told Carol. She made her choices, Kim replied. We continued discussing what happened for a little while longer before I decided to call my girlfriends to fill them in before Harmony went to work. I let them know I would send the video tomorrow morning so we could all watch it together. The rest of the day, we focused on Mom. She was recovering from her first round of cancer treatment and felt really tired. Paul and I took care of chores around the house that Dad didn't have time for, while looking after Mom and working during the week. In the afternoon, we shared stories from when Kim and I were kids, remembering the good times. Mom laughed as she shared the same old stories we had talked about at Della T's a few months ago. It was nice, we were family after all. When I went to bed I called Melody since Harmony was working. We talked for about an hour about nothing special, just catching up. Tomorrow was Sunday, and I planned to go to church with my mom and dad. After that we would enjoy our family lunch of fish and chips and spend some more time together. Then I would drive home early Monday morning ready to go back to work on Tuesday. Sunday church was good. I got to see some people I hadn't seen in a while. Some expressed sympathy about what happened with Carol and Mackenzie. I worried that people might think badly of me for my feelings toward both Melody and Harmony, but nothing happened, and I left church without any trouble. I decided I should talk to someone religious about what God might actually think about me liking both Melody and Harmony at the same time at lunchtime. I was reminded of how great the local fish and chip shop was as I sat and ate with Mom, Dad, Paul, and Kim. I really enjoyed the calamari. It was made fresh and tasted amazing. I was happy to finish the last piece on the plate when someone knocked at the front door. We weren't expecting anyone, and I felt a little nervous when I saw who it was. Waiting outside was my old family. Carol was there with Mackenzie. Carol looked upset, and maybe a bit worried, while Mackenzie looked angry. I was relieved that Dr. Morrison wasn't with them. After a moment of all of us staring at each other, my dad opened the door. Dad wasted no time. What do you want, Carol? I thought after how you treated Terry yesterday this would be the last place you'd want to come. His tone was firm but polite. I know, John, Carol started, wringing her hands. But Terry said something yesterday, and I saw something in his eyes. I don't want you to think I don't care, but Dad interrupted her. Forgive me, Carol, but I really don't think you do care. The way both of you treated Terry yesterday was unacceptable. I have never seen such disrespect towards someone you once said you cared about. I never said, Carol began, but Dad cut her off again. You didn't need to say anything, Carol. Terry has everything on video. We saw what you, Mackenzie, and your new husband did. Frankly, I'm ashamed we ever called you family. But John, Terry mentioned something was wrong, and he wouldn't tell me what it was. So we thought we'd come and see if we could make things right, Carol said, trying to sound sincere, but Dad wasn't convinced. It's a bit too late to show any kindness, don't you think? Dad shook his head. No, Carol, there is nothing you can do to help. Honestly, we will not share what is going on. You have not been a part of this family for a long time, and while it saddens me, this is a family issue. It's not for others to know. You and your daughter are now outside of this family. You have both embarrassed yourselves and hurt this family in ways that you might not even understand. He looked down at them, and we shouldn't ignore how the customers at the cafe left upset after hearing your disrespectful words towards my son yesterday. I watched from my place on the couch through the whole talk. I glanced at Mackenzie. She avoided looking at me for more than a second but kept looking back at me as Dad and Carol spoke. I tried to keep my face calm even though I felt both anger and sadness in my heart. The argument between my ex-wife and my father was almost over. And Carol? Yes, John, she replied, her voice shaky. Terry was right about one thing. Neither of you seems to see that what you are doing and how others see it will not end well. As far as this family is concerned, you have burned your bridges with us. You are on your own now, and Mackenzie's issues are completely your responsibility. What do you mean? She asked, shocked. I don't think she realized that getting rid of me also meant getting rid of my family. Your daughter. Mackenzie looked at her grandfather in surprise. Mackenzie is not on the right path. If you do not help her let go of this selfishness and disrespect for others that your husband encourages, she will be very lonely as she grows older. Mackenzie shouted, That's not fair, Pa. It is fair, Mackenzie. I saw the video. I saw how you treated the man who raised you. I'm disgusted by your behavior, he said angrily. All my son ever did was love you both. Those fancy clothes and shiny things you have now will not bring you happiness. You're trading your true self for things that don't matter. Carol looked down with shame on her face again. Mackenzie turned to me, trying to get my attention and look important. Yes, but these, she pointed at her clothes, her old arrogance creeping back, are things that no plumber can ever provide. She seemed to lift herself up with false pride glaring at me. My new father takes me to nice places, gives me gifts, and doesn't have to dig in the dirt or clean toilets for a living. That mean look from yesterday came back on her face. Dad was getting really upset. Mackenzie, let me remind you, I dig in the dirt and clean toilets too. Does that mean you see me as something disgusting? Am I really as bad as the man you're looking down on who just wanted to love you? She stopped and looked worried. No, Dad. You're a good plumber. She was trying to fix things. She didn't think her grandfather's job would bring up problems. So let me ask you, Mackenzie. If I'm a good plumber and my son, who you once loved and called Dad, is a bad plumber, what does that say about us? My father said, his face growing red. I could see he was angry, and trying not to let it show. Mackenzie looked confused, and Carol jumped in, misunderstanding the talk and trying to shift blame. That's enough, John. Don't bother the girl. We all know this is Terry's fault. He left us when he should have made things right. He could have been a part of our lives. Dad shook his head and said, This is not my son's fault. I'm tired of hearing that from you. Grow up, Carol. Everyone was shocked. You think Terry should have stayed so you could remind him every day of how both of you hurt him to make him feel like he was tossed aside? You even tried to take money from him. Money he worked hard for even after you both brought up his adoption. He deserves some respect. He worked hard every day for you. Mackenzie stepped back in and said something that hit me hard, but he could have come to see me. I wanted him to. It doesn't matter that Stephen is a better father. I would never have cut Dad out of my life forever. Mom said it was just until I was adopted, then Dad could have seen me again. Mackenzie sounded desperate, but I thought her words felt forced. For the first time since the coffeehouse, her guard slipped. She called me Dad. It nearly broke me, but the hurt held me back. I had promised to mourn them, and I was still doing that. Dad looked really angry, like a storm about to break. Carol and Mackenzie took a step back. You think that awful excuse for a man is a better father? What are you thinking? He's not a father. He clenched his fist like I did yesterday, but then he took a breath and tried to calm down. You're almost 16. It's been over a year since you left. Don't look at me like that. You left your father. You only reached out when you wanted something. Just a moment ago I heard you disrespect him again. You called my son a bad father. Both of you keep going on about this new doctor, your mother's new husband. But did either of you ever think to check if Terry was okay? He looked at both of them. You had your new family. Who did Terry have? He had you, Dad. He had Mom, Uncle Paul, and Auntie Kim, Mackenzie replied. Dad nodded. Yes, you're right. We saw him often, but that was only a few nights a week. Most of the time, he was home alone with no family to come home to. A restraining order stopped him from seeing his family. Not once did you think about him and how he might be feeling. You both only thought about yourselves. Everyone froze, surprised by Dad's words. He rarely got angry, especially not at work. His use of strong words showed how upset he was. His fists were tight and his face was pale. Carol and Mackenzie looked a bit pale too, then his voice softened. My son left because you only thought of yourselves. You chose what seemed better money, and both of you ran straight for it, leaving love behind. By leaving him, you left us too, he said, his voice sharper. I stood up and moved toward the door, putting a hand on Dad's shoulder. I needed to stop this. It's okay, Dad, you go back inside. I will walk Carol and Mackenzie to their car. He turned to look at me, and for the first time, I saw tears in his eyes. He nodded at me and patted my hand on his shoulder before going inside. I waved to my former family members, and they walked in front of me feeling smaller. When we got to Carol's car, a shiny new Lexus, they turned to me. Ladies, I said calmly before they could speak. I don't know what you thought would happen here today, but after yesterday you had to know it wouldn't go well. Terry, Carol began. We just thought. No, Carol, I cut in. You didn't think. This is my family now, not yours anymore. If you want, talk to your parents or to his. They knew I meant that not so great guy. But Terry, Stephen's parents passed away long ago, and you know my parents live in England. Surely, you don't want your daughter to never see her grandparents again? Her voice started soft but got sharper as she went on. Mackenzie feels guilty about everything, she continued. When you keep her from seeing you, when you turn her grandparents against her, when you deny her access to the money that belongs to her. I raised my hand to stop her. Carol paused. She knew that when I did this it wouldn't lead to anything good. I'd only used this gesture with her a few times even when we were married, and it worked again now. I kept my voice soft. There you go again, shifting the blame instead of taking responsibility for what you've done. I looked at my former daughter. Mackenzie? Yes, Dad? There was a shake in her voice. What's your name? Mackenzie, Dad. You know that. No. What's your full name? Mackenzie Rosioth. She hesitated, then said Morrison. She looked down. I nodded. Morrison, I said again. Then I glanced at Carol. So you see, her last name is Morrison, not other. Do either of you understand what you did to me? Daddy, I never. Carol started but then stopped her. Yes, Terry, we did. We knew it would hurt you, but we thought you would get over it. Mackenzie just wanted her father. Do you know that in the first month she cried for you every night? It felt like Carol was trying to shift the blame to me, which made me angry. No, Carol. I didn't know that. And you know why I didn't, don't you? She looked at the ground, knowing what I would say. The restraining order, I said, the anger clear in my voice. That restraining order. I couldn't talk to my daughter. I couldn't ask her how her day was. I wasn't allowed to hug her, give her advice, or even be in the same room. And let's not forget how I was ignored on my birthday. I was heartbroken, but I bet neither of you even thought about how it affected me. I couldn't do anything. And as I told you that day, the way you both acted was planned to hurt me the most. I was upset but still kept my voice down. That pain was made worse by the man in your life. Last time we talked I told you both that you broke my heart. It still hurts deeply. The only way I could cope was to move away from the pain you caused. I'm still hurting for you both. And even now, talking to you brings me so much sorrow that I feel like I might fall apart if I let my guard down. Both women had tears in their eyes, but I kept going. I took a breath and continued in a quiet voice. What hurt me the most was that when you both left, it felt like my family was gone. On the morning you left, you acted like everything was fine. Did you know why I didn't see what you were planning? They looked at me, both shaking their heads like they didn't know. Love. I paused for a moment. I loved both of you with all my heart. I trusted you with my life. I believed that because I loved you, you would love me back. But Daddy, I still love you, Mackenzie said quickly. I turned my attention back to her. Mackenzie, your idea of love is confused. Today you say you love me, but yesterday was a different story. Do you remember what you called me while you were trying to butchie and scare me? Mackenzie looked down at her feet and didn't answer. Mackenzie, do you remember what you were calling me? I asked again, this time more firmly. After a brief moment she nodded, giving a small quiet reply. Yes, she said in a soft voice. What was it? What did you call me if not Dad? I questioned. She glanced up at me for a second before looking back down. It seemed there was something interesting on the ground. Jerk, she said quietly, almost like she felt bad about it. I nodded. You called me a jerk, but right now you're calling me Dad and saying you love me. Can you see why I'm confused? Today you say you love me, but yesterday, you shouted names at me and even made threats. You practically said it was okay for something bad to happen to me. My voice was low but filled with emotion. But Daddy, it was, she started to say, but then paused, struggling to finish her thought. It was not a nice thing to do, Carol added with a sigh, speaking for her daughter. But Terry, what do you want? You can't just stop seeing your daughter. I glared at my ex-wife, Carol. You're just as guilty. Right now you feel bad. But yesterday, you were just as supportive of your daughter as that terrible man you now call your husband. As I said before, I mourn both of you as if you are gone. Mackenzie gasped at my words. Everything you both have done has hurt me so much, and neither of you has shown any real regret. I paused and looked at them. Then, since neither of them spoke, I asked Mackenzie, what will happen the next time I see you? Will I be the jerk again, or will I be Dad? You'll be Dad, Mackenzie said, tears streaming down her face. I wasn't sure if she was crying because she felt guilty, or because she was being confronted. This is the problem with broken trust. How you feel becomes hard to see clearly. Mackenzie went on, I'm sorry, Daddy. 3 shouldn't have said those things. I promise I'll do better next time. I nodded. We will see, Mackenzie. Trust takes time to rebuild, and right now I feel far from that with you. I can admit I still care for you, but it's buried under a lot of hurt and anger. The things you said yesterday, and how you supported those threats, make it hard to heal, and it won't take much more for that care to disappear completely. Mackenzie was crying openly now, and I turned to look at my ex-wife. And you, Carol, what do you mean? What will I be the next time? She looked at me for a moment then sighed. Terry, I never thought it would come to this, but I don't know. Maybe soon we can sit down and talk about it. It's all a mess. I'm sorry, Carol, but there won't be a discussion. Tomorrow morning, I'm going back to my new life. They stared at me. No. I won't share any details, but I finally have a chance to be happy, and I'm going for it. Do you have a new girlfriend, Dad? Mackenzie asked, her eyes watery and filled with questions. You don't need to know that, Mackenzie. Just like you don't need to know about the family business, which is why you showed up here today, I said, turning to Carol. You came here for that reason, right? Or was it something else? Both girls looked away, embarrassed. I let out a small laugh. I thought so. Look, ladies, I think this talk should end here. If we continue, it will probably turn into a money discussion, and I believe that's the real reason you're here. That conversation won't end well for any of us, so let's go our separate ways now before it gets any worse. Carol sighed. Okay, Terry. But you know we aren't done talking. She looked at me with a mix of expectation and a hint of threat, showing she wasn't ready to back down. I know, Carol, but as I said yesterday, you pushed me, and you won't like what happens next if you keep going this way. Consider that a warning. Carol's face became tense. She wasn't getting the reaction she wanted. You know Stephen will hurt you. You might end up with nothing. I'm trying to help you save some dignity before it's too late. Believe me, it would be better to give us what we ask for now than to end up unhappy and regretting that you didn't take our kindness when you had the chance. I laughed. This woman could change her mood at any moment. How did I miss that before? Mackenzie looked a bit scared. She had seemed sorry and ready to apologize, but now she was caught between me and her mother. Carol was watching me with a serious look, puzzled about why I was laughing instead of reacting to her threat. I turned to Carol. You, my unfaithful ex-wife, once held my heart and now have betrayed my love. With each pointed word her face grew pale. I don't say these things just to hurt you. I want you to understand the feelings and reasons behind what I say next. Carol looked at me, a hint of fear in her eyes. Mackenzie stood frozen, hardly daring to breathe. I'm not the same man you left behind. I faced more pain, both physical and emotional, than you can imagine. But the worst part is you three keep pushing me. I raised my voice. Let me tell you right now so you can tell your husband that none of you know what I can really do. You insult me, and act like you have dignity. Just go away. Your threat is empty, and shows how sad you have become. You say you will ruin me. I don't think you understand what could happen if you don't back off. I leaned closer to Carol. So tell your husband to just take the win of you and my daughter. I glanced at Mackenzie, who looked very small and sad. I wouldn't even help any of you if you were in trouble right now. I turned back to Carol, letting my anger show in my eyes. This is the last time I will accept threats or rude comments without standing up for myself. I took a deep breath and tried to calm down. So now I won't wish you well, but I won't curse you as you leave either. I stepped back to show that our talk was over. They stared at me for a moment. Finally, Carol realized I was done talking. She took Mackenzie's hand and led her to the car. Once in, she started the engine. Mackenzie rolled down her window, tears in her eyes. Daddy, I'm sorry. My heart broke. Even after everything, I still loved her. I nodded, trying to stay strong. I want to believe you're sorry, Mackenzie, but show me through your actions. Don't ever act like you did yesterday again. Okay? I'll try. Not the strong answer I wanted. Don't just try. Make it happen, Mackenzie. Goodbye. I walked back to the house as they drove away. When I reached the porch and watched them leave, I felt my mother's arms wrap around me from behind. Are you okay? She asked. I thought for a moment. That was harder and easier than I thought it would be. At least we didn't scream at each other. It was close though, I thought, as Mom let go of me and pulled me back into the living room. So what do we do now? Mom asked. After the conversation with Carol, I shared what happened with my family. As I talked, Kim was deep in thought. She was sitting with a glass of red wine, not drinking it, just holding it. She was pregnant, and the wine seemed like a focus for her. I knew Paul would drink it for her later. Well, I think we need to do something about the threat made against Terry by Dr. Morrison. What he did yesterday was very unprofessional. The other threats in Carol's words just now don't really mean anything in a legal way. Plus, if you take action, it might ruin any good feelings you have for Carol or Mackenzie. I looked at my family saying, there is no love left for Carol in me. She's pushed me away for good. But with Mackenzie, I'm not sure. My family could see I was torn. Even though I felt hurt by what my former daughter had done, I still cared about her as I stood in my parents' driveway. Mom took my hand and squeezed it gently. It's okay, Terry, Mom said. We know this is hard. I still care about Mackenzie too, no matter what happened. I nodded, and everyone else nodded in understanding too. Finally, I turned to Kim. I think we should go after Dr. Morrison. How long will it take to prepare your plan? I asked my big sister. It'll take a few weeks, maybe a month. I need to look at the video to make sure we have a strong case against him. But if we do it right, he will really suffer. He might even get something for it. I don't need any more money. I have a good job, and I know my girlfriends are doing well." We all laughed. The Delotis family was indeed wealthy. I looked at my family again. But besides that, I don't want to depend on them. We others are proud and take care of ourselves, I explained. I loved my girls, but I needed to fight my own battles. Everyone nodded, and Kim turned to Dad. "Dad, I know you meant well, but I wish you hadn't mentioned the video." "Sorry," he said, and Kim gave his hand a gentle pat. "Oh, and Dad," Kim added with a smile, making everyone look at her. "I'm not sure where you got that language with Carol earlier, but really, watch what you say," she teased, and laughter filled the room. The rest of the afternoon we relaxed and talked as a family. We discussed Mom's cancer treatment, my relationships with the girls, Kim's pregnancy, and what to do about Carol, Mackenzie, and Dr. Morrison. Later, I received a text from an unknown number. "I'm going to ruin everything you care about, loser. You're dead, do you hear me? Dead." I must have hit a nerve with Dr. Morrison because it was clear who sent that text. I wanted to reply, but instead, I showed it to Kim. She laughed and took a picture of the number, the message, and the time and date to keep as proof. We spent a few more minutes talking about why he felt so worried about me. Everyone knew I wasn't going to bother Carol again. I chuckled with Kim, joking that maybe he was jealous in his personal life, and that there might be some truth in what people said about him not being well endowed. Later in the afternoon I called my friends and filled them in on what happened with Carol and Mackenzie. They were still upset on my behalf, but were glad it didn't turn into a big scene this time. I told them about the message I got, and they laughed, agreeing that he must not be very good in that area. Melody suggested that Carol probably had to pretend to be happy, as she wasn't getting the same love I gave her when we were married. "And you have 2 active girlfriends to take care of, which we all know you do very well," Harmony joked, making us all chuckle. We chatted and laughed for a while longer. It felt nice to know I had their support. I let them know I would be driving early tomorrow, and would be back in the early afternoon before saying goodnight and getting some rest. My drive home was smooth, and I felt happy thinking of Bathurst as my home. It was home because Melody and Harmony were there. The rest was just decoration. That evening when we reunited, it was wonderful. I made sure the girls were very happy, and the next day, they joked about feeling a bit sore from all the fun. At work, a little after lunch, I was sitting down looking through some reports from the past few days, when Sally came into my office and sat down. "So," she asked me. "So," I replied, raising an eyebrow. "Is it true?" she wanted to know. "Is what true?" I answered. I had a feeling this wasn't about work. Over the months Sally and I had developed a friendly professional relationship. We laughed and joked together a lot. That you're dating both Melody and Harmony at the same time, and that you're the reason Melody is sitting oddly today but has a huge smile on her face. Sally grinned at me. "And what if it is?" I asked, trying to hide my feelings and even pretending to look a bit upset. Her smile faded. "Oh, sorry, Terry. I didn't mean I'm mean," I laughed. "Look, Sally, it's going to come out sooner or later. Yes, I am dating both twins at the same time. And about the sitting oddly, let's just say I was away for a few days, and Harmony is sitting just as oddly as Melody today." Sally's eyes widened in surprise. "Really? Really?" I chuckled. "Wow, just wow. I never thought oh, sorry, Terry," she stammered, glancing away shyly. I laughed again. "It's okay, Sally. It's only been a few months, but I think the bond between the 3 of us has been strong from the start. If you had told me a year ago that I would be dating identical twins, I would have laughed." We chatted for a little while longer until Melody peeked her head through the door, noticing our laughter. "What are you talking about?" she asked, smiling. "You, actually," I replied with a grin. "Really? What about me?" she asked, curious. "Well," Sally said playfully, "Terry here is going to talk to my boyfriend to help him understand how he can make me feel as good as both Harmony and you do today." She chuckled as Melody's cheeks turned red. Then Melody looked at us with a cheeky smile. "That's easy, Sally. Just make sure he cares for you so much that you want to be really close with him all night long." Sally was taking a sip of water and almost spat it out at us. "4 times? Is that twice for each of you?" "Nope. Terry here managed 4 times with me and 3 with Harmony. He really cares about both of us." Sally looked me over surprised. "Wow, Terry. I wouldn't have guessed." I felt a bit embarrassed but laughed. "Nor would I, Sally. I didn't have this kind of energy in my last relationship. I think the girls are giving me extra strength." It was nice that Sally and most of the team at Delotis Inc. didn't judge me for dating both of the owner's daughters. Instead, the guys gave me friendly looks as if to say, "You lucky guy." Our chat must have spread around because the other girls in the office started looking at me as if I was something special. There was also a change in how everyone treated Melody at work. She was William's daughter, but now she was my girlfriend. We always kept things professional in the office. Of course, we would share the occasional quick kiss, But everyone respected my relationship with Melody and Harmony. The same thing happened when Harmony visited the office. The first time I sat with both girls in the lunchroom, we attracted a lot of attention. But Sally joined us, and soon it felt normal that I was dating 2 girls. I also continued to do well in my job as a quality manager. I studied hard and worked with my team to make little improvements to our processes so we could keep our quality high and be more efficient. For over 3 months, my life felt perfect. I had a great job and 2 loving girlfriends who took care of me most nights, if you know what I mean. I was truly in love with both Melody and Harmony, and couldn't picture my future without them. Many people around the office and even in town, where we often ate and spent time together, had gotten used to seeing the 3 of us as a close group. Every now and then, an older woman would say something unkind to us, but we never let it bother us. One time, I decided to buy the woman who insulted us a coffee. This surprised her and changed her attitude. Later, she came over and joined us. By the end of the afternoon, she felt sorry for how she had acted. She shared some funny stories about her younger days and how she dated multiple boys at once. It's true what they say. You can't judge someone without knowing them. The woman Betty even invited us to her church to meet the people there in a few weeks. We smiled but didn't make any promises. Mom had gone through another cancer treatment and was doing okay. I didn't travel to Maitland, but my sisters Melody and Harmony and I spent a lot of time talking with Mom and Dad on video calls. We also started legal action against Dr. Stephen Morrison, whom we referred to as Dr. Morrison, and the hospital. We included the video I took outside the cafe that day. Kim got statements from witnesses who saw what happened, and the Morrisons had been asked to stay away from the cafe. So far, only the paperwork had been submitted. Kim told me that since I was in a different city and there was no immediate danger, it might take 6 months for the case to go to court. The Maitland Hospital acknowledged the claim, but hadn't said anything about punishing or defending Dr. Morrison. Kim figured they would wait to see what happened in court before taking any action. Apparently he was a skilled surgeon, so I thought the hospital wouldn't let him go without a good reason. They wanted to keep using his skills. It was Saturday afternoon. Melody, Harmony and I were in the living room working on a huge jigsaw puzzle. You know, the kind with 10,000 pieces that look the same on both sides but are at different angles. Yeah. It was challenging but fun. We were enjoying it and discussing the idea of visiting Betty's church when Kim called me. "Hey there, big sister. You got some love for your little brother," I said in a cheerful voice as I answered the phone. "Terry." Her tone quickly changed my mood. "Kim, is everything all right?" I felt my heart drop and the girls stopped what they were doing to look at me. "No, Terry. It's Mom. She's been taken to the hospital with chest pains." I could sense she felt a bit lost. "Okay, all right. Let me put you on speaker. The girls are here with me." I set the phone to speaker, and the girls gathered close, forgetting the puzzle. Kim cleared her throat and sniffled. "Okay, everyone, here's what I know. A few hours ago, Mom started feeling unwell and then had severe chest pains. They called her doctor. He suggested that she go to the hospital. Do you know if the pain was in her chest or lower in her stomach?" Harmony asked, switching into a caring mode. "I'm sorry, Harmony, I don't," Kim said, starting to cry. She was just days away from having her first baby, and this was really hard for her. "It's okay, Kim. I assume Dad is with her?" I asked. "Yes. But Terry, I don't know what to do. This is my mom," she cried. I wanted to reach through the phone and hug my big sister. I could see the worry in both my girls' eyes. "Kim, I'm going to make some calls and come up to be there for Mom, Dad, and you. I've got a few days off saved up so I can take a week off without any problem." We talked for a few more minutes then hung up. Next I called William, who was out to lunch with Martha and some friends, to ensure it was okay for me to take a week off. Once he gave the go-ahead, I called Sally to ask if she could cover for me. Then I started to pack a bag. A few minutes later my girlfriends came in. "Terry," Melody said, "Harmony is going with you." I looked at them. Harmony nodded, then stepped out of the room. She quickly came back with a bag and started packing with me. Melody came over and gave me a hug. "We talked about it. And while I want to go with you, we have a new supplier starting this week, so I need to be at the office. But Harmony can take the time to help both Josephine and you." I felt like I was on autopilot, but all I felt was love from my girls as I watched Harmony pack with focus. Looking at my dear Melody, I knew it hurt her not to come, but she understood I had to go, and she was sending Harmony with me. I loved that there was no jealousy in her eyes, just care for me and my mother. "Okay, big guy. You need to keep packing," she said seriously. "I'm sure Josephine will be okay, but you and Harmony need to leave." She looked at me. "I love you, Terry." We packed clothes and other important things for 20 minutes, then got my truck ready for the trip. After hugging both Harmony and Melody goodbye, we hit the road for the long drive to Maitland from Bathurst. Though the mood was serious most of the way, it was nice to have company for the drive for the first time. Harmony called her work and arranged to take the week off before we were even an hour down the road. We were on the phone with Melody for most of the time, and they both kept me from worrying too much about our upcoming visit to the hospital. What stood out to me was that Harmony always kept her hand on mine, showing me her support and that she was there for me. We arrived in Maitland in the evening. After making good time, we went straight to the hospital. Unfortunately, it was the same hospital where Dr. Morrison worked. I hoped he wasn't there. And since we were in a different area, the chances of seeing him were low. Harmony had called Dad and found out where Mom was, so we parked and met up with Mom and Dad quickly. Mom looked a little worried, but wasn't in much pain. After Harmony and I hugged our parents, we settled in. Harmony picked up the chart at the end of Mom's bed and glanced at it. Harmony nodded a few times and smiled at Mom. "They're taking good care of you, Josephine. Your vital signs are strong, and the tests will help us know if there's anything to worry about." "Well, I'm on some strong pain meds, so I'm feeling okay right now. The earlier doctor is updating my cancer specialist and hoping I can go home soon if all is well," Mom replied. I smiled. "That's great, Mom. Harmony and I are here all week, so if you need anything, we're ready to help." Dad added, "Thanks, son. You and Harmony can stay at our place. Is Melody coming to visit?" I could tell Dad was a bit amused. Over the past few months, he and Melody had become friends. The awkwardness of me dating two women, especially identical twins, had turned into playful teasing and a sense of pride for him. "Sorry, John," Harmony said. "Melody couldn't make it this time, but we promise she will visit you both soon." We chatted and even had a video call with Melody, William, and Martha from home in Bathurst for about half an hour. Soon, it was almost time for visiting hours to end, so we said our goodbyes, hugged Mom and Dad, and left for their house. Dad told us he would join us later, and to just make up the spare bed. On the way to my parents' place, we called Kim and talked to her and Paul for a few minutes, letting them know we had seen Mom and were on our way home. We planned breakfast for the next day with Kim, said our goodbyes, and arrived at Mom and Dad's. I had a spare key for emergencies, so we let ourselves in, set up the bed, and took turns in the shower since it was small. Then we climbed into bed and video called Melody on FaceTime. She was already in bed when she answered. "How are you guys?" Melody asked as I held my phone, and Harmony snuggled in close so we could both be on screen. "Good, Melody. We're at John and Josephine's and cozy here. Our big guy is doing okay, but I can tell he misses you," Harmony said. Melody said. Her eyes focused on me. Talking to my sister on FaceTime while I was busy with something else was a strange situation I don't think many guys experience. We kept talking for a bit as Melody got dressed. I enjoyed a short video chat with her while Harmony went to the bathroom to freshen up. We said "I love you," and then I handed the phone back to Harmony so she could chat with her sister while I took my turn in the bathroom. Dad had left a note saying he came home around 1 in the morning and would sleep late. He said he would call us when he woke up, so we got dressed and headed into town for breakfast with Kim. "Hey, Mama Bear, how's my future nephew doing today?" I asked, sitting down across from Kim after giving her a hug. "Not too bad, but it feels like there's an overinflated beach ball inside me dancing on my bladder," she replied with a smile, patting her belly. "I swear once he's born he'll be doing chores until he turns 20 for all this trouble he's giving me." Kim thought her first child would be a boy, while Paul thought it would be a girl. The rest of us mostly stayed out of it, eager to meet our new niece or nephew. We laughed and joked for a few minutes with Harmony asking how Kim was feeling. My girlfriend is always curious about medical stuff since she's a nurse. When the server came, I ordered a cappuccino and a breakfast wrap for myself and a half-strength latte with fried eggs on rye for Harmony. Kim just looked at us. "What's up?" I asked as the server went to put in our orders. "What would you have ordered if Melody was here?" Kim asked, grinning. "That's easy. A cappuccino and bacon and eggs, no toast, but with a hash brown on the side," I replied with a smile. "Softy," she laughed back at me. For the next hour, we talked about everything. From Mom and her cancer, to Kim's upcoming labor and how Melody, Harmony, and I were getting along. We even mentioned Carol and Mackenzie. As I finished my coffee, I thought about my past family. I realized a lot of my anger toward them had faded after that last conversation. About Carol, I found that I didn't hate her, but I didn't really care what happened to her. When I thought of Mackenzie, I felt a mix of love and confusion. I saw her acting tough with Stephen, but then being sorry the next day. I wasn't sure what our relationship would be like as she grew up. Had I lost my chance to be close to her? "Penny, for your thoughts, little brother," Kim asked gently after a moment of silence. "He's thinking about Mackenzie," Harmony said. "How do you know?" Kim asked her. "When he thinks about Carol, he gets this blank look like he's not really there. But when he thinks about Mackenzie, his expression changes, and he looks lost. It's not always easy to notice, but Melody and I have really understood this over the past year." I smiled and leaned over to give her a kiss. "And that's why I love you and your sisters so much," I replied. "You're so cheesy," Kim teased as she looked at us. My sister enjoyed making jokes about me, but there was always deep love behind her words. But if Paul could see how I feel that quickly, she paused mid-sentence. Harmony and I stopped looking at each other and turned to Kim. "Kim?" I asked. She had a look on her face that was a mix of surprise and embarrassment. For a moment she seemed worried as she glanced at us. Then we heard a sound like running water. "Oh no," she groaned. "My water just broke." Everyone in the cafe rushed to help while we waited for an ambulance to take Kim to the hospital. By the time it arrived, Kim was having some mild contractions, but they were not too close together. We had called Paul, and he was on his way to meet the ambulance at the hospital. Harmony and I would follow him in my truck. The cafe staff were wonderful and insisted we not pay for our meal. We promised we would return once Kim and her baby were safe. Kim spent nearly 19 hours in labor. From the visitors' lounge it sounded like my sister was swearing quite a bit, but finally, little Candace, my first niece, was born. Other than the long wait, Kim was doing well, and my niece was perfect. I was proud to be the 5th person to hold her. My parents came from the cancer ward as soon as their 2nd grandchild was born, and we were all amazed. When Kim introduced Aunt Harmony and asked me to FaceTime Aunt Melody while Harmony held our new niece, I remembered a conversation where Melody and Harmony mentioned wanting children with me. At that moment, looking at Harmony with Candace, I realized that I could have more kids. Melody, watching through my phone, must have noticed something too. "Terry, can you call me back?" she asked. "Sure, babe." I ended the call and told everyone I was stepping outside to talk to Melody privately. Harmony gave me a knowing look and whispered, "I love you," while she gently held and spoke to my niece. I called Melody. "Hi there. What's going on?" I asked. I felt a pause. This was serious. "Terry, are you okay?" "Yes, I'm great. Mom is getting better and should be home soon. Kim and Paul have little Candace, and I have you too. Why do you ask?" "Well, my love, I saw the way you looked at Harmony when she held Candace, and I laughed softly. You want to know if I'd like to have children with you?" I could sense her blushing through the phone. "Yes, I mean, with both Harmony and me. I saw it in your eyes just now, and I could see it in Harmony too, and it made me feel, well, it kind of excited me," she admitted. I chuckled. "Melody, if I'm being honest, I've thought about having kids with both of you, and it made me feel really good. Would it be alright if we talk seriously about this next week when we get back home? I'm not saying we should start trying right away, but I want to have a plan." Melody squealed, "Oh my God, yes Terry, yes. You don't know how much I want both Harmony and me to have kids with you." I think she was almost swooning. Watching Harmony earlier, "I think I do," I said with a big grin. The idea of having kids with my girls was really starting to grow on me, and honestly, it had been since the first time they mentioned it. "Look, Melody, we only have a couple of nights here, and then we will be home. Will you be okay until then? I miss you so much, Terry, but yes, just promise you'll hold me extra tight when you get home." "You got it, beautiful," I replied. "Great, now take me back in and bring me to my sister." I walked back into the room where Harmony had just passed little Candace back to Kim. Harmony reached out for the phone and stepped outside for a moment. Kim looked at me with a raised eyebrow while helping Candace. "See? You're all wrapped up in them." I laughed at that. The next couple of days were wonderful. It was only a 5-minute walk between the maternity ward and the cancer ward. Harmony and I spent a few hours with Mom in the morning. She was excited to go home. The new medicine had helped with her pain. The doctors had some updates after her scans to help with her next treatment. Mom was full of energy and ready to be a loving grandmother again. "Now don't wait too long before you give me more grandkids with your wonderful girlfriends, Terry," she said, smiling as I turned red. Harmony wrapped her arm around me. "You can count on it, Josephine," she said, making me blush even more. "The 3 of us are planning for it." I changed the subject, and we talked for a few more minutes about getting Mom home and making sure we had a nice family dinner for all of us before we left tomorrow. "Harmony, is it okay if I talk to Terry alone for a minute?" Mom asked. "Sure, Josephine." Once Harmony left the room, Mom gave me a serious look from her hospital bed. "Terry, I know how much you love both those girls, and I assume there's no chance of you getting back together with Carol." "No, Mom, there will never be a chance for Carol and me again. And yes, I love both of those girls very much. I know it's an unusual situation, but I truly can't see one without the other, and they've never been jealous of each other." She smiled and nodded, accepting what I said about Carol and my girls. "I can see how much they care about you, but I need to ask something about the 3 of you." She paused, unsure. "Mom?" For a moment, Mom sounded a bit choked up. "If anything happens to me, if we can't overcome this cancer, I need you, Kim, and Paul to take care of your dad." Mom started to cry, and I wrapped my arms around her, holding her tight for a few minutes. We just stood there together, a mother and son. "Mom, I don't want you to go anywhere, but I promise we will all take care of Dad." "Thank you, Terry. That means so much to me." "No problem, Mom. You know what? Harmony and I were about to visit Kim. Why don't you come with us? We can come back and finish packing before we go home. I held her hands and hoped she would see my point. I'm sure Grandma can watch Candace for a bit, right? She hesitated, then smiled. Okay, Terry, you've convinced me. I'll join you. As we walked out, Harmony gave me a curious look. I shook my head slightly to say we would talk later and that Mom was coming with us to see Kim. If you've ever walked through a hospital, you know it can feel like a maze. There are hallways, offices, and rooms everywhere. Everything has its purpose, from storing medical supplies to giving the busy staff a place to rest. Over the past few days, Harmony and I had figured out the best way to get between the cancer and maternity wards, walking back and forth often. Today, Mom and Harmony walked ahead of me, chatting about all sorts of things. I smiled seeing Mom with one of the two women I love. It warmed my heart. I noticed that Mom seemed to talk more freely with Harmony than with anyone else. While she was friendly with my ex-wife, it was nice to see her so relaxed with Harmony. It made me realize how much Melody and Harmony had changed my life this past year, and how my family had accepted them so well. It was wonderful how the community around Bathurst had also welcomed our unique relationship. I watched as Mom held on to Harmony's arm talking about grandchildren, and I smiled again. In just a couple of years, my life had turned upside down. I had gone from having a happy family to feeling like a defeated husband and father, then becoming a hero, and now being in love with two amazing sisters I would do anything for. I also felt good knowing that Mom could overcome cancer and live to see the grandchildren I hoped to have with my girls. As we approached a corner that the girls had just turned, I suddenly paused. Something didn't feel right. I sensed movement behind me that felt threatening. I felt a chill run up my arms. If you've ever been outside at night and heard strange noises in the dark, you know that uneasy feeling. It's like a switch that makes you want to run away or fight back. I thought I would never feel that way in a hospital, but there it was, hitting me hard. In just a few seconds I turned around to see what was making me feel so uneasy. Suddenly, a sharp pain hit my left shoulder. It felt like something had poked me. Before I could even catch my breath, a second pain came close to the first. As I turned around more, I saw him, Dr. Stephen Morrison, standing there, looking pleased with himself. I told you never to come near my hospital or you'll wish you hadn't, he yelled. What? What did you do? I asked, my hand trembling as I felt 2 syringes stuck in my back. He just smiled back at me. From the day I first met this man, my life had turned upside down. It all started the night I walked into my house and found my wife and daughter gone with only a letter and papers that changed everything. I was filled with anger toward him. He had taken my wife and made my daughter his. With every encounter, he flaunted his position as a doctor, taunting me while I fought to control my anger. In one of the few talks since the divorce, my ex, Carol, hinted that he was afraid I would try to win her back. Looking at the smug man in front of me, I could see why he felt that way. On TV, doctors and surgeons are often portrayed as handsome and confident. They stay calm and make quick decisions. But that's not what I saw in the man standing before me. His smug smile and appearance made no sense for a doctor. He was overweight, losing hair, and looked unhealthy even with whatever he had just injected into me. What did you do to me? I shouted at him while looking at the syringes I was holding. Tisk. Tisk, Terry, my friend. You should mind your words in your last moments. He chuckled, taking a step back. It won't be long before you fall asleep from the mixture I just gave you. He grinned a wicked smile. But don't worry. You won't wake up again. I'll never have to worry about Carol wanting you back because you'll be gone. Just then, Harmony ran around the corner with my mother close behind her. They both paused. I shouted, and all my anger, hurt, and feelings of betrayal came rushing out. I was done sitting quietly. I wouldn't let this guy mess with my life anymore. You arrogant jerk. I've told you I want nothing to do with those dishonest girls, and I certainly want nothing to do with you, a pathetic failure. I felt a buzz in my fingers. I stepped toward him, tightening my fists. He took a step back but glanced behind me. His eyes widened. Then he found that annoying smirk again when he saw Harmony holding on to my mom. Well, Terry, at least I can say she's better looking than Carol. You can be happy knowing that once you're gone, I'll be with her and make her happy in ways you never could. Screw you, I shouted again and charged at him. He stepped back in fear, and I swung my fist with all my strength, all my anger, all my pain, hitting him right on the jaw. My fist connected. The punch sent him flying sideways into the corridor wall. I could hear the impact and feel his jaw shift while his head stayed still for a second. Harmony rushed to my side, her arms around me. Terry, she called, looking into my eyes and seeing that I was losing focus fast. My anger faded quickly with the danger gone. He gave me these, I said, handing her the 2 syringes. That guy said I wouldn't leave his hospital alive. Now it looks like he won't be leaving either. I laughed softly and then fell to my knees as the drugs took hold. Harmony knelt beside me, sliding us to the wall out of the way and hitting a black button. Alarms went off throughout the hall. She cradled my head in her hands and looked deep into my eyes. She was crying. "Terry, stay with me as long as you can. Every moment you stay awake helps us find a way to save you." I nodded. I began to see a halo around Harmony. She glowed even as everything else blurred. I smiled. "You're beautiful, Harmony. I love you and Melody so much." "I know, baby. We love you so much too," she said. Just then 3 security guards ran up, followed closely by a doctor. Harmony handed him the 2 syringes. "That jerk," she said, pointing at the rude guy. "He made my boyfriend take something that could hurt him. I need you to find out what it is so we can save him." I looked at Harmony. I felt tired, and everything around me was getting blurry. Then I heard a phone ring. A lot of fast words filled the air. For a moment, I lost my focus, and then I felt something cool against my ear as Harmony held her phone there for me. "Terry, baby, what's happening?" My other wonderful girlfriend, Melody, said on the phone. I looked into Harmony's bright green eyes. I could stare at them forever and never want to look away. "I hit him. The big jerk. The doctor." I was getting mixed up with my words. Harmony smiled at me. Harmony told me, "Terry, are you listening?" Melody's voice was worried, and we all knew I was slipping away. "Yes," I managed to reply. "Baby, we need you to stay with us. We need you, our love." Melody was crying over the phone. Looking at Harmony, I saw she was crying too. "Terry, our sweet Terry, please don't leave us. We just found you," Harmony whispered. "I'm so tired," I replied softly. Now more doctors were gathering around Harmony and me. They pushed her to the side, taking the phone away. Some security guards lifted me onto a stretcher as directed by the doctors, and I saw my mom wrapping her arms around a crying Harmony. In a final moment of clarity, I looked into her eyes and I mouthed, "I love you." She returned the gesture. "We love you too," she said back. They started moving me down the hallway quickly, and I could feel everything fading. I closed my eyes as the world around me slipped away. I felt loved and happy knowing I wasn't alone. But just before everything went dark, I wondered if I would wake up again. Looking at Harmony, she was crying softly too. "Terry, our sweet Terry, please don't go. We can't let you leave us so soon after finding you," Harmony whispered. "I'm so tired," I replied. More doctors crowded around Harmony and me. Eventually she had to step back, taking her phone with her. A couple of security guards helped lift me onto a waiting stretcher. I saw my mom wrap her arms around a crying Harmony. In a moment of clarity, our eyes met. I silently said, "I love you," and she returned the gesture. "We love you too," she replied. They started moving me down the hallway quickly, so I closed my eyes. I could feel everything fading away as the medications took effect. I felt loved and happy knowing I wasn't alone. But as I slipped into darkness, I wondered if I would ever wake up again. My mouth felt dry, like I hadn't had a drink in days. It was hard to get my lips together to moisten my mouth. This was the feeling I had as I slowly started to wake up. I was lying flat on my back in what had to be a hospital bed. My limbs felt heavy, and it took great effort to open my eyes. Every part of me ached. At least my hearing was working. As I woke up, I could hear snoring. I tried to move a little, and the snoring stopped. I felt some pressure lift from my chest, and then I heard a voice that made me feel at ease. "Terry?" The voice belonged to one of the 2 special people in the world who could wake me up. It was her voice that pulled me further into awareness. "Melody." I blinked and pushed myself to open my eyes. It was dark, and the light in the hospital room was dim. As my eyes focused, I saw one of my beautiful girlfriends lying beside me, curled up on my right side. Melody loved to do this. It had always been her spot since we first met. Even in a hospital bed, she managed to nestle on my midsection without disturbing me. "Harmony," Melody whispered to someone sitting in a chair beside the bed, "I think he's waking up." Almost immediately, Harmony, who looked just like Melody, stepped forward and gazed at me. I tried to focus on her in the dim light. I loved both women equally, and I knew they loved me just the same. "Hey there, good looking. Welcome back," Harmony said with a warm smile. She gently took my hand and squeezed it. I squeezed back a little, which felt like a big effort. Then she leaned in closer, looking into my eyes with a smile as I tried to gather my thoughts. "It's okay, my dear," she said, calling me a sweet name that had become special for us. "Just take it easy. You've been out for a while, and we need to help you catch up. For now, just relax," my caring girlfriend advised. I tried to smile, but found it hard with the tube in my throat. I worried I would choke until both girls tried to soothe me. "Just take deep breaths, Terry. We put a tube in your throat to help you breathe. It might feel strange, but you're awake now. So I'm sure the doctors will take it out soon," Harmony explained. "You really scared us, Terry, but we're so proud of you for getting through this," Melody added. Her worried eyes showed just how much she cared. Then she leaned in and kissed my forehead. "It's all right, my love. I know you have many questions, but for now, just relax. We're here for you, and you'll get your answers soon." Harmony looked me over and then called for the nurse. Together they pressed some buttons on the machine next to my bed. "Just go back to sleep, Terry," she said softly. "We'll be here when you wake up, and trust me, you'll feel a lot better after some more sleep." She was right. I dozed off again and woke up a few hours later just as the sun was rising when a doctor came in to check on me. Neither of my girls had left my side. After running some tests, Harmony helped him take out the tube from my throat, which wasn't a nice feeling. Then while the doctor continued his checks, Harmony handed Melody a cup of ice chips. Melody fussed over me, feeding me the ice one small piece at a time until it melted in my mouth. I tried to speak a few times, but it took me a moment to find my voice. "What happened?" I managed to say, my voice rough. The girls glanced at each other. "Terry, it's hard to say this, but you died," Melody said, her eyes filling with tears. "What?" I whispered in shock. Harmony nodded. "You actually died twice and almost a third time before the hospital staff figured out how to help you." Suddenly, memories of my fight with Dr. Morrison came rushing back to me. Harmony noticed my distraction and continued. "The emergency team got you to the ER in just a few minutes. I think you passed out on the way." "Then," she said, her face showing sadness as she remembered everything. "They figured out one of the drugs pretty quickly. It was a common medicine used to put someone to sleep for a surgery. The second drug was harder to identify." Melody was holding my hand tightly. "Since the guy was a surgeon, they thought he might have used something to make your heart slow down, which could make it stop beating if it was too much," she said with a sigh. "We still don't know what the second drug is. Both syringes are being checked in a lab for the police." "How come I'm still alive?" I asked, truly curious. Harmony smiled at me. "You had good care, and a medical team that knew how to help. That's why you feel like you've run a few marathons. Your muscles tightened a lot from the adrenaline and the shocks they gave you." "Yeah. I felt sore all over." "How long was I out?" 3 days, Harmony replied, squeezing my hand again. I let out a breath, almost like I did when I got hurt before. Melody leaned in and kissed me. I could tell she wanted to share her side of the story. "I was in a meeting with Dad and a new supplier when I suddenly felt sick. I knew something was wrong right away. It was as if Harmony was in some terrible situation, and I could sense it. So I left the meeting and called her. She told me you were hurt and let me talk to you," she said. Now she was lying beside me on the bed, holding my hospital gown, while she quietly cried. "When the hospital staff got to you, Harmony had to step away. Josephine followed her into the emergency room to see if they could help you while I was falling apart on the phone. Dad knew something was wrong when I came back to the room. I felt so empty and upset like never before. Our man had been hurt, and I wasn't close enough to help." She was sobbing, remembering everything. For a few minutes she cried next to me, while Harmony gently rubbed her back. When Melody started to feel better, she gave me a couple of kisses and insisted that Harmony should get her turn too, which I happily allowed. Finally she sat back up, holding on to me tightly as if I might disappear. With a smile and a nod from me, she continued. I gave Dad the quick story. Once he and the new supplier heard what was going on, the supplier agreed to reschedule. Within 2 hours, Dad, Mom, and I were on a flight to Maitland. By the time we arrived, they had moved you from emergency to this room. "Are William and Martha here too?" I asked. "Of course they are." Melody smiled while wiping her tears. "They are at home with your mom and dad. They have been here with us every day. Terry, you are our family. I know Mom and Dad care. They care about you a lot. They were just as worried as we were when we first saw you lying there, not awake and connected to so many machines. They'll be here later this morning." Melody gave me another hug. "In fact, you can expect the whole family today once they find out you are awake." She stayed close to me, resting her head on my chest and sighing softly. For a few minutes I got lost in my thoughts. I gently ran my sore hands through Melody's hair. Harmony smiled at me, took my other hand, and kissed it sweetly. I suddenly realized I hadn't asked something important. What happened to that guy? A frown came to my face. Harmony's smile changed. It looked more like a cat ready to pounce on its prey. "He's been arrested and is in a safe part of the jail. You really got him good. Your punch broke his jaw and hurt his cheekbone and the muscles in his face. He bit his tongue too. Now his face is wired shut for at least 2 months." I moved my right hand, the one I had used to hit him. It was a little sore, but not too bad. It was the same hand that was in Melody's hair. She felt it and smiled. Then she held my hand and kissed it just like her sister did with my other hand, knowing what I was thinking. "I should also tell you that a couple of detectives will want to speak with you now that you're awake, but from what I hear, you're not in any trouble. The guy's court hearing will take a few months since he can't talk," Harmony said with a smile. I nodded and let out a big sigh. I had just escaped death once again. As morning turned to day, my parents and William and Martha came in when they got the news that I was awake. Mom looked better, still weak from the cancer treatment, but stronger than I'd seen her just a few days ago. Mom hugged me tightly. "I was so scared, Terry. Harmony and I turned back when we heard you yell, and then I saw you knock that horrible guy down. she smiled, and her rare use of a strong word made us all laugh. After that, you collapsed, and I didn't know what to do. If Harmony hadn't been with me, I would have collapsed too. We sat in the emergency room chairs waiting until you were brought out. Terry, I'm so sorry. I never thought someone could be so awful. Neither did I, Mom, I replied. I knew he felt a little threatened by me and we were never going to be friends, but I didn't think he would go this far. I do wonder what made him lose it completely. Who knows, William said. But with how you act around my daughters, it's possible your ex-wife wasn't happy with him. Everyone looked surprised for a moment. I don't think anyone expected William to say something like that. Then in the next moment, everyone started laughing hard. Tears rolled down our faces. For the next half hour, we told joke after joke filled with cheeky humor, until Paul and Kim walked in, pushing little Candace in her stroller. Well, I see everyone is in a good mood, and it's nice to see you awake, little brother, my sister said with a smile, but also a hint of relief. So what's all the laughter about? She asked. Your brother's skills in his room have really upset Dr. Johnson, and it seems his ex-wife is regretting her choices at home, Martha chimed in. Suddenly, the room went quiet. No one expected such a bold comment from the usually reserved lady of the family, but then laughter erupted once more. Kim glanced at me and winked. Around lunchtime, everyone except Melody and Harmony went back to my parents' house to rest. In the afternoon, the doctors helped me out of bed. They checked my condition and guided me through some stretching. Melody assisted me with my first shower in days, helping and supporting me. Every part of me ached, and I had a few muscle cramps that Melody was happy to massage away. If everything looked good, I would get my latest blood test results that evening. This meant the hospital could let me go home the next day. I would still be stiff and sore for a few weeks, but I could continue healing at home if my test results were clear. Once released, the plan was to have lunch with Mom, Dad, Paul, Kim, and my new niece. Then William and Martha would fly home that evening while Melody, Harmony, and I drove home through the night. While waiting for my results that afternoon, 2 detectives came to visit me about the case against the man who had caused me trouble. First, they took my statement about what happened. They told me I would likely need to attend his court hearing. The next day, I was relieved to be released. We had a wonderful afternoon with the family. After sharing food, laughs, and taking some fun family photos, we all headed home. Melody, Harmony, and I drove back with Melody at the wheel. We had a great time singing silly road trip songs and playing a game with the letters on license plates. That's where you make up words from the 3 letters you see on Australian plates. Melody won with the letters LCD. While most would think of it as liquid crystal display, she grinned and said, "Little cool doctor. This is why I love my girls." I returned home and back to work without too much fuss. Everyone was glad to have me back. And once I shared my story a few times and got treated to some beers, we all settled back into our usual routines. I also spent some quality time with Pastor Dan from Betty's church. One day, we sat at a nice coffee shop in Bathurst talking about my life over the past few years. Once I finished sharing my story, I reached the part I wanted to discuss, and he interrupted me to share some thoughts. So Terry, it's been a bit over 6 months since Betty introduced us. I can honestly say that you, Melody, and Harmony have brought some excitement to our little group. We both laughed at that. I smiled as we remembered how people reacted when they found out I was dating both sisters. I understand why you're angry at your old family. I can see why you felt you had to move away after what they did to you. The church tries hard not to judge, but I don't think I would have handled it as well as you did. I raised my eyebrows, and he chuckled. My job is to be a pastor, but I'm just a regular man, just as flawed as anyone else. If I were in your position, I can only imagine I would have acted differently. We sat quietly for a few minutes sipping our coffee. Dan smiled and took a sip. He was younger, working full-time at the church. He had a lovely blonde wife and a 4-year-old son who seemed to find trouble wherever he went. I found myself liking him. I had grown up in a church-going family. My parents attended a small Anglican church back in Maitland. Dan considered himself more non-denominational. I liked that he shared God's message without being harsh. He talked about kindness and forgiveness while encouraging a personal relationship with God no matter where you were in life. That felt right to me. He looked at me, eyebrows raised, leaning forward over the table. With everything going on, you're wondering how to feel about wanting to marry both Melody and Harmony, right? I shrugged, and he laughed. Terry, you have one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard, and trust me, I've heard a lot. He smirked. And I think your story still has more to unfold. I shrugged again and said, before Carol and Mackenzie left, I would have called my life ordinary just like everyone else's. But since that night, I've learned to appreciate everything. I looked at Dan. I continued, Dan, I believe in God, but I don't think it should be forced on anyone. It has to be a choice they make. I want to marry my girls in a church where we won't be judged, including my own. I'd like your thoughts and your help with this. Dan looked at me for a moment, seeming to weigh his words, and I thought he might try to tell me it wouldn't happen, but he surprised me. Terry, in the Old Testament, it was normal for a man to have several wives. The story of Abraham tells us about Isaac and Ishmael, where Abraham was the father of both with different mothers. Only when Christianity and modern Judaism became part of Western culture after Emperor Nero did marriage become a one-on-one relationship. He looked at me to make sure I understood. I nodded. But the truth is, you can't marry both melody and harmony. Our country only allows one person to marry another. I know some people live as couples with more than one person, but they aren't legally married. We sat quietly for a moment, and I shared my idea. Dan, what if I marry one of the girls officially? We could fill out all the legal papers for that. But what if I also had some sort of civil agreement with the other, just not a marriage? I don't know, Terry. Honestly, I've never heard of that happening legally, especially not in the church. Even if we could, which girl would you marry? Wouldn't the other feel left out? The only reason I'm even considering this idea with you three is that both Liz and I see the same love and care between you that we have for each other. It is unusual, yes. Is it wrong in God's eyes? I can't say for sure, but if you want to be married you must choose just one. He gave me a final look. Why are you pushing this now? You have so much going for you. I'd love to see you married, but wouldn't it be better to keep things as they are? You almost died, right? Maybe take it slow. That's exactly why, Dan, I said. After I woke up, both girls were there. Their love, their worry, their support. The bond we share is clear to me. I don't just see two women. I see the three of us connected emotionally and physically. If you had told me a few years back I would have laughed, but now I can't imagine separating from them. I want to be married to both. We talked for another hour about how it could work. By the end, I had a good plan in mind. I was ready to marry my girls and be with them forever. The following weeks went on like normal. I cuddled with my girls every night. Sometimes we enjoyed each other's company in a special way, and other times we just read books, did puzzles, or cooked together. I loved spending time with them. One Saturday evening we had a barbecue in the backyard. Kim and Paul came down to visit for the weekend. They said it was to discuss the upcoming court case with Dr. Morrison. I'm not sure, but I think they just wanted to get away for the weekend. Kim told me that Dr. Morrison had finally been able to talk this week since his jaw was no longer wired shut. For the first time in months, he could speak without writing things down. However, he was still in the secure part of the hospital, and if he wanted to go anywhere else, he would need to stay in custody. After visiting Carol and Mackenzie, Kim informed me that the two detectives who had questioned me were in there for over 3 hours. Kim was smiling. Somehow she had a copy of the interview notes. When I asked her how she got them, she just winked at me, letting me know it was a secret. Most of the notes are pretty boring, just the usual questions from cops. But if you look at page 15, you'll find something interesting about why he really wanted to hurt you, Kim said with a strange smile and excitement in her eyes. I took the papers and turned to page 15, reading aloud so everyone at the table could hear. Now remember, we're reading a transcript here. A lot of the feeling comes from what we're hearing. I imagine Detective Rodriguez in a room with Dr. Morrison. The walls gray, a metal table, and a single light hanging above. I could picture Dr. Morrison slumped in his chair knowing he was in trouble. Let's read. D. Rodriguez. So, Dr. Morrison, we have already confirmed that you attacked Mr. Other with the intent to hurt him, but what we don't understand yet is your reason. Can you explain that to me, Dr. Morrison? Because I couldn't handle it anymore, D. Rodriguez. What do you mean you couldn't handle it? We've already established that Mr. Other never contacted or threatened you and never harmed you until you tried to attack him, Dr. Morrison. Because he embarrassed me again. That's why, D. Rodriguez. How did he embarrass you, Dr. Morrison? Dr. Morrison. My wife, D. Rodriguez. What do you mean by your wife? Was Mr. Other threatening your wife who is his ex-wife? Dr. Morrison. No, he was too decent for that. My wife talks in her sleep, D. Rodriguez. And how does your wife talking in her sleep make you want to hurt Mr. Other? Dr. Morrison paused for a long moment before answering. D. Rodriguez. Dr. Morrison? Dr. Morrison. Since we got married at least once a week, my wife Carol dreams about him. She begs him to take her back, saying she made a mistake. And she tells him. He paused again. D. Rodriguez. Dr. Morrison in the dream. What does she tell him? Dr. Morrison. She says how much better he is than me, how he is amazing with her and takes her to amazing places, how he is much better than me and that I barely compare to him. Every night when we go to bed I feel that my wife still thinks about that guy. Her dreams make me think I could never be as good for her as he is. Sometimes in her sleep, she mentions how much bigger he is than me. Dr. Morrison. Do you understand now, detective? When I saw that guy in the hospital I felt like I had to do something. Just the night before, my wife was dreaming about him and showing herself some affection while she slept. She was thinking of him, not me, Dr. Morrison. So when I saw him the next day, I remembered I told him to stay away from my hospital. At that moment I felt I had to take action. I needed to regain my place in her life. I had to confront him, Dr. Morrison, and now he is gone. My wife will never be tempted by him again, will never dream about his fit body. She keeps talking about him while she sleeps, and I've had to listen to it. But now that he is gone, she is mine once more. The suspect and officers sit in silence for a while. D. Rodriguez. Dr. Morrison, do you believe you killed Mr. Other based on your statement, Dr. Morrison? Of course. With what I did to him, he should be gone. That woman and the guy's mother saw what happened. I know I'm in some trouble, but he is out of the picture, and I'm still here. In time, this will just be a bad dream for me, but his family will always feel the loss while he is gone. The suspect laughs. D. Rodriguez, Dr. Morrison. I need to inform you that your attempt to end Mr. Other's life did not succeed. He is still alive. While he was hurt after your attack, he is recovering fine. The suspect shouts and can't form words. There were still several pages of the interview left, but by this point we were all laughing. Finally, we understood why he seemed to dislike me so much. I went inside and brought out fresh drinks for everyone. Even Kim was enjoying some wine that night, saying she had enough for little Candace for her next few feedings. We joked about several things over the next hour, mostly about that guy and my wife's mixed feelings. Later, we asked how Paul and Kim were adjusting to being parents. It's incredible, my older sister said excitedly. As tired as I am every single day, I wouldn't trade being a mom for anything. And I've never had more fun with Kim than now, Paul added cheerfully. A couple of beers helped him relax. Laughter filled the room again as Kim stood up, playfully teasing her husband before sitting back down and taking his hand sweetly. Are you ready to think about having another baby? Melody asked, a cheeky grin on her face. Definitely, Kim replied. But I need to take my time with Candace first. They say breastfeeding can help prevent pregnancy, but I know there's still a chance. That won't stop my Paul from trying. Right, sweetie? I always admired their relationship. My sister could be tough and sometimes harsh, but her heart only belonged to her husband. They flirted without a care, still acting like young lovers. Then Paul turned to the rest of us. But what about you three? He looked at Melody, Harmony, and me. When are you all going to give me some nieces and nephews? I nearly spat out my drink. Everyone laughed this time at my surprise. William and Martha exchanged looks, but tried to seem engaged. I could tell they would appreciate some grandkids now that the three of us were settled into our own relationship. Actually, Harmony began, we've been talking about having kids for a few months. Melody nodded. Terry knows we want kids with him, and he wants the same. Her voice had a sense of certainty, as if that was that. I sighed but agreed. Yes, they're right. We've had some good talks about it. For the next hour, we chatted about kids. Melody even took out her phone, and we used a fun app that showed what our kids might look like. I have to say we made some really cute imaginary kids, which had everyone laughing joyfully. I felt so happy surrounded by people I loved. They didn't ask for anything but my time. When Martha called everyone for dessert, I jumped up to help her. After grabbing what I needed, I returned with warm apple pie and homemade vanilla ice cream. It was perfect. Before the night could wind down too much, I stood up to get everyone's attention. Before we all head our separate ways tonight, I have a few things I'd like to share. Everyone looked at me, listened carefully. A couple of years ago, I thought my life was falling apart. I wasn't sure how to pick up the pieces after everything that happened with my first wife and daughter. I was hurt and angry, and I now realize I was very confused. Then my friends offered me a new job in a new town. It helped me leave my old life behind, and I am grateful for that. I nodded and thanked William and Martha. They were holding hands and smiling back at me. On my way here, I got caught in a huge storm, a storm that changed my life for the better. I smiled at my girls. In that storm, I found two amazing and spirited people. They say I saved them, but they saved me too. Now I know that without them I'd feel empty and angry. With my girls in my life, I have more love and happiness than I ever imagined. Life will still have its hard times, but I know I can face anything with both of you by my side. Everyone at the table was smiling. Melody and Harmony looked proud. I knelt down on both knees to show the girls they were my equals in everything, including my love for them. The girls put their hands on their faces, and everyone gasped. Even Martha was there holding her phone, showing my parents on FaceTime. I had asked her to do that so they could see what I was about to say. I hadn't told her my plan, but I think she guessed. I pulled out two identical ring boxes from behind my back and held them up. Melody, Harmony, over the past 2 years, you have both shown me what real love is. You gave me your hearts without thinking twice. You took a broken man and made him whole, a man who loves both of you deeply. I paused. And if anyone tried to come between us, I'd stand up for both of you. Everyone laughed. Melody, Harmony, I don't know what the future holds for us, but I want to explore it together. If both of you will have me, I would like to ask you to marry me. Yes, they both yelled together. Melody first, Harmony said quietly as they helped me stand up. I took the first ring out of its box and slipped it onto Melody's finger. It was a gold band with a single diamond surrounded by tiny blue sapphires. Melody bent down and gave me a sweet kiss, saying, "I love you." "Now, Harmony," Melody said excitedly. I took out the second ring, which was almost like the first one, but had purple sapphires around the diamond. Harmony leaned in and kissed me lovingly. "I love you, Terry," she said softly. The girls hugged me tightly as we faced the table. Harmony was on my left and Melody on my right. Everyone was cheering, and the girls spent the next few hours looking at their rings and planning our double wedding like most women do. Mom and Dad congratulated us and looked forward to the big day before saying goodbye and hanging up. After that, things calmed down, and everyone went home. That night, I had an unexpected moment when I saw the two twin sisters, both wearing only their engagement rings, enjoying a special time together. Soon the news spread around our office and among our friends that I had proposed to both girls, and wanted to marry them at the same time. About a week later, just before we were to go back to Maitland for a court date, we sat down to discuss how our marriage would work legally. I knew we would need to talk about this eventually, so I shared the plan I made with Pastor Dan, and that I had also included Kim as my lawyer. "Girls, as you know, in this country, we can only have one of you recognized as my legal wife," I said. "I've talked to Dan, and he agreed to hold a ceremony for both of you at once. I've also spoken with Kim, and we're working on a legal agreement that will be similar to a marriage. It will involve our rights with each other, but won't be registered as a wedding." The girls looked a bit sad at this news. "However," I added, "the words in this document will allow us to call each other husband and wife." I paused for a moment. Wives. We should decide who takes which role, but know that I love both of you equally and I'll treat you the same. Do either of you have any thoughts? The girls exchanged glances and nodded. "Yes," they both said together. After a brief pause, Melody spoke. "Terry, Harmony will be the one to be your legal wife. I will be the one signing Kim's document." "Why is that?" I asked. Melody explained. "There are a few reasons. First, Harmony is older." By about 90 seconds I chuckled. "Yes, but it's one of our reasons. Another is that Harmony always sleeps on your left side. That's where you will wear your wedding ring." "Okay. I think that's a silly reason, but I see your point. Any other reasons?" "Yes, Terry. There's an important reason, but I need to explain a few things first," Harmony said as she took my hand. I looked at both of my fiancés and waited. "As you know, Mom and Dad are quite well off, and Delotes Inc. is a family business. Any direct descendant will inherit the company and have responsibilities related to it. But there are many duties and rules involved. The company, the money, and even this house are all part of a legal trust. This trust gives us a certain way of living, but make sure we use the money responsibly for future generations." I nodded, understanding a little about how our family's money works. Melody and I are the only kids of our parents. Dad has no brothers or sisters, so along with Mom and Dad, the four of us are in charge of the trust. When you marry us, you will also join the family and share this responsibility. If we have children later, they will take on these duties too. If any of us want to leave the trust, we can't just take our money. We have to sign a paper, and in return, we get some money. But when that money is gone, we have nothing left. What does this have to do with marrying you instead of Melody? I asked Harmony. "Terry," Melody said, "Harmony is a nurse while you and I work at the company. She is part of the family and enjoys its benefits, but she doesn't help the company grow directly. This doesn't matter much now, but later on when she retires, she will earn much less money because she hasn't helped the trust grow." Harmony nodded in agreement. Melody continued. "If she becomes your wife, and you keep working for the company, she will receive the same benefits I do." She paused to smile at her sister. "Not that I would ever hold anything back from my sister, but everything is set up so the family will keep supporting and growing the company and the trust." Harmony blew her a playful kiss and Melody winked back. "Okay, I understand now. But Melody, are you okay with signing the legal papers?" She took a breath and looked at Harmony, then at me. "Yes, my love. As long as I can call you my husband and have your children, I will be happy." That night we went through everything with William and Martha. They were very supportive, and liked the plan Kim was making for the legal papers. With all the details organized, and a plan on how I could marry both Melody and Harmony, we looked at a date a little less than 5 months away. Kim promised me that the legal papers would be ready. Pastor Dan was happy to hold a private ceremony at the church for the three of us. When the week came for Dr. Morrison's court hearing, Melody, Harmony, and I took time off work. We decided to drive from Bathurst to Maitland in my truck. Instead of taking the direct route, we went the scenic way. It took us almost 3 days to get there. Along the way, we stopped in several charming little towns, visiting bakeries, coffee shops, and quaint gift stores. As a former worker in trades, I couldn't resist trying the bakery's vanilla slice. I knew I would have to exercise more when we got back home to burn off the calories. The girls found some clothes in the craft shops. When we checked into our B&B with one big bed for the three of us, we got some curious looks. At the first B&B, the older lady at the front desk asked if we wanted a rollaway bed. Melody giggled and said, "No. Our fiancé sleeps with us in the same bed every night." The lady was a bit surprised and paused for a moment, then she forced a smile. I could tell she was curious, but we were beginning to accept that people reacted differently to us being together. On the second night, we went to a different B&B. An older man at the front desk asked a similar question. Melody gave almost the same answer. This time, instead of being shocked, the man just smiled widely and gave me a fist bump. The girls laughed, and as we walked away, they seemed to sway their hips a bit more than usual. I definitely felt their closeness as we headed to our room. When we arrived at my parents' house, we settled in and spent some time with my dad. My mom was back in the hospital after her recent cancer treatment. She would be there for a few days, so we planned to visit her once we knew more about the court hearing. Once Kim arrived with Candace, we played with my niece. She was growing fast and loved being around the twins. She kept looking at them and giggled when one of them held her while the other played peekaboo. After Candace was happy being held by Harmony, Kim shared the details about the court hearing for Dr. Morrison. It should be simple. She chuckled at the nickname we gave him. Dr. Morrison will be brought in. The charge is read, and if the judge has any questions he'll ask them. There might be witnesses like you or Harmony. Then the judge will ask for a plea, either guilty or not guilty. Finally, the judge will set up probation or custody rules, and that will be it. So will we be called and have to take an oath? I asked. Kim laughed. That could happen. You might need to show who you are, but it's simple. The judge is the one asking the questions. There won't be any tough questioning like you see in the movies. We chatted for a few more hours, and then Paul arrived after work with a lot of Thai food. We all enjoyed the meal together. Even Candace got to eat when Kim pulled out a shawl from the diaper bag and fed her daughter. I think I stared a bit too long at my sister feeding her child. "You mean to tell me you have two beautiful fiancés and you still can't stop looking at your big sister?" she teased. I laughed back. "Well, first, you're right. My fiancés are beautiful. Second, you were the first person I ever saw like that, even if you were just a little different back then. And lastly," I gave her a playful gesture and a big smile. "I'm a guy, and I appreciate women." Everyone laughed. Paul put down his beer to speak, but Kim interrupted him. "Paul, if you say what I think you're about to say, I'll make sure you regret it." "What?" "I wasn't going to say anything," he replied, still smiling. Paul didn't have family anymore, so he saw us as his. Melody laughed. "You were just about to ask to see us like Terry sees his sisters?" It looked like Paul was going to make that joke, but suddenly, everyone gasped as both Melody and Harmony quickly showed everyone in the room a little skin. My dad turned bright red. Kim spit her drink back into her glass and Paul just sat there wide-eyed. I smiled widely, happy and amused. "That's the only look you'll get, but we keep our guy happy with these girls." Melody giggled, playfully showing off. "No one outside the family gets to see us like this." Lastly, Harmony looked at everyone, then focused on Paul. "If you say anything, just know your wife won't be your biggest concern." Then everyone started laughing again, and we had a good time. Paul kept grinning at me, and fist bumped me all night. Later, when everyone was winding down, I was in our room, and the girls were in the bathroom when my sister knocked on the open door. "Do you mind if I come in?" she asked. I nodded, and she came in and sat on the bed. "How do you three fit in this bed?" she asked, fixing the sheets. I shrugged. "I don't know. It's our first night trying it, but we'll manage. We always do." She touched my arm. "That's what I love about you, Terry. You could have run away or become bitter because of what Carol and Mackenzie did, but you didn't. I think those girls saved you just as much as you saved them." To be continued. Thanks for watching. Take care. Good luck.
After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind, or maybe it has brought back some old memories. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories, and they connect all of us. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. These kinds of moments remind us that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it with your friends. Your thoughts and feedback are always valuable to us, as they motivate us to create even better content. Every story has its own unique angle, and our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. Stories like these help us realize that life's journey is different for everyone, and by hearing other stories, we learn something new. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave your feedback. We aim to create content that brightens your mind and gives you new ideas every time. If you've already seen this video before, your feedback is still important. With every piece of feedback, we can improve our content and bring a new perspective to our viewers. Today, what we saw was just a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and across the world. It's a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with each other. This video was only an example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. We hope to continue sharing such stories that help us all learn and grow together. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more amazing content. Your support keeps us going, and we will strive to bring you more thought-provoking and heartwarming stories. Until next time, take care and stay curious. **